Nothing Worthwhile, the recognized symbol of excellence in crappy podcasting.
Hi, I'm Evan Moody.
I'm Andy Gruthius.
And you're listening to Nothing Worthwhile
with Moody and Groo.
All right, our next presenters may very well represent three-quarters of one of the greatest rock and roll bands ever. Here, having now officially survived their own rock and roll version of the Dick York, Dick Sargent debacle, it's Van Halen, ladies and gentlemen. I think we're here to present Best Male Video of the Year award. Right, Dave? Oh, Dave.
No. Instead of the best award thing, we have to make an announcement. We have to address a subject here. This is the first time that we've actually stood on stage together in over a decade.
You know, is this? Are you guys going to record, tour, or anything?
We've already finished several songs, and they are sensational. In a sense that what you always expect is that it won't add up. Usually when somebody reconvenes an act like this, a band like this, it doesn't add up. Age takes its toll. Not at all. Not in this case at all. And we have a spectacular producer.
I was going to say, speak for yourself.
At the MTV Awards that changed the nature of your relationship with David?
It wasn't his on-stage antics, which for one I thought was embarrassing.
And disrespectful to Beck?
Very disrespectful to Beck, as he's trying to thank, people, his acceptance speech, whatever. Dave's behind him doing this shtick, and it's like, I don't know. To me, it was embarrassing. But it was more so backstage, where he basically spit in my face. We get shuffled off to the first mob press conference, and everyone, yelling, screaming questions, and Dave just wasn't answering any of them. He was doing this up and bottom, best piece with the pops. So I just kind of walked up and said, look, everybody, here's what's happening. 2 songs, best of volume 1. One of us would like us to do 2 videos, and that is it. If you think we're going on tour in the summer, forget it. We're not going to go out there and take your money. And if and when we ever do a tour with Roth in the future, we'll have to write and record a new album first. Okay? I'm talking in the future.
Now that's what he said. This is not what we're saying now.
No.
Good afternoon, everybody. How are you this afternoon here? This is the press conference that you probably never thought that you would see happen, certainly not while we were all young, skinny, and good-looking. Welcome, one and all. Make yourselves at home. We did, and I think you know all the names of everybody here. And I thought I was the newest guy in the band, but that turns out to be even part of the colorful Van Halen history, and it's a new band. Man, when you hear the sound of what we've got going now, we've been rehearsing this more often than not. I've done more rehearsal in the last 4 months than I've done in the last 20 summers here. I think you know everybody here. Wolfgang, Edward, myself, Diamond Dave here. This is Alex. I'd like to start off with this. My new brother.
So I'm assuming you saw the trailer for season 4 of Cobra Kai.
Oh, of course I did.
Have you seen that?
Of course I did.
I'm sure you probably dissected it. I'm surprised you haven't posted a YouTube video. At the 40-second mark, you can clearly see the ponytail.
I don't do that anymore, and you know that. Not really.
I do love those videos where they break down trailers.
I've been watching them. I've been watching the ones that have been breaking down the new Rocky IV trailer. Those I like.
Yeah, when is that? November
11th.
Is that supposed to be? I'll probably go see it in honor of you.
I already got my ticket.
I know. I saw the poster. I'm like, I don't know whether to be proud of him or to be a little concerned. But
don't be proud. Don't be proud at all. Be very concerned.
No. We got some Stallone news later today.
Good.
Oh yeah, good. Welcome everybody, live via Zoom. We are back, live, local, late breaking. America's #1 bi-coastal podcast featuring 2 annoying Jews. You can hear the lack of enthusiasm in my voice. On the West Coast, along with show mascot, he's resting comfortably on the floor, Braxton Moody, a.k.a. Puppy Shango. Evan Moody, annoying Jew #1. On the East Coast, annoying Jew #2. His name is Andrew Gruthius, Coral Springs, Florida. Groo, how the hell are you, my friend?
I am doing fine. It's a little rainy here today, which suits me and my life just perfectly fine. Any reason to stay indoors, I'm good with. But yeah, doing fine. Busy at work, but definitely looking forward to the next couple of months and the excitement that the winter months bring. But yeah, everything is terrific. Everything's great. And by the way, it's even better today because it is a very special day. Saturday, October 30th, happens to be my dear, dear friend Evan Moody's 40th birthday? 30th birthday?
A little higher.
I know how old you are, but I'm not going to say it. But yes, it's Evan's birthday, so happy birthday to you.
Thank you,
Evan
my friend.
Moody.
Thank you. That shows the dedication we have to this show. Birthdays, holidays, religious holidays. We don't care. We don't give a shit.
Exactly.
We're going to still power through.
Exactly.
And get through our podcasts.
Exactly.
Yes,
it's like Billy Joel's attitude towards writing songs. Really.
Yeah. Did you see? Actually, I did. I didn't. I listened to. I put it on. Oh, I'll tell you something funny. I did text you, which you didn't respond, but
I did.
I texted you and Craig. So I called Sirius XM and I said, I got my automatic renewal notice in the mail, and it was like $340. And I said, yeah, F this S. Let me call him. And I said, I want to cancel. How come? Well, Howard Stern, 3 days a week. I bought the lifetime membership back like in 2006.
Right.
For literally like $600, and then they didn't honor it anymore. You only have like 3 cars you could transfer it to, and so all of a sudden, the lady, I don't know what country, India, whatever country, the customer service, and there's Andrew wincing at my. But anyway, she's like, well, we could, Mr. Moody, you've been a long time customer. You now are qualified for our newest promotion, $140, and I was like, all right, fine, I'll do it for $100. So I kept Sirius XM for another year, and then I put on Howard. He had Billy on live, and as I said on one text message, what new could Howard really? Forgetting and no criticism of Howard. He's had Billy on 2 or 3 times. They did a town hall. What more? What new can we learn? So it was Good Night Saigon, and the same questions about the Vietnam veterans. So I turned it off. However, I did watch a couple of clips on YouTube. Of course, Howard has to ask Billy, about. Did you see about selling his catalog?
Yes, but I had read about it before I saw it, but I don't care.
Well, what do you mean by that? Because was that pre-taped? Do you feel?
No.
That's
no.
One of the
I didn't. No, I didn't listen, or I didn't listen live. The thing was, I think Tuesday, I think that's when Billy Joel was on. And like a day later, there was a little article about the interview, and it was specifically about how much would Billy Joel sell his catalog for. So I waited patiently till the spirits moved me, and I had to go to the bathroom. And so I sat down on the toilet, and I said, okay, I'll read this. And it was basically word for word what he said in the interview, but like you were insinuating, I listened to the whole thing eventually, and there was a lot of repetitiveness. It was kind of the same stuff. How many times do you have to ask? His answer's not going to change. Why don't you write songs anymore? And why remind us of that? Because it just, the answer pisses me off.
Well, apparently it was to promote the new vinyl collection, which I would get if I had a vinyl player. Apparently they're releasing, as part of this collection, this never released before live concert from like the Great American Music Hall from 1975, which would probably be in our wheelhouse in terms of older school Billy material. And then, of course, they were promoting his return to the full-time residency at the Garden. Two things that I took away from it. Number one, Billy lost a lot of weight.
Yes, he
looked
did.
Good. And he was Botoxed or did something with his face, because his face was awfully smooth for a 72, 73-year-old. He looked like
I think he's older
Bruce.
than that.
Definitely had some work done. The other thing was, I actually did like his answer about selling the catalog. Howard compared it to Dylan got $50 million, and if Billy with all his pop hits. Billy said, I don't think my catalog is worth $1 billion, number one. Number two, if somebody was willing to give it to me, I would strongly consider it. But he did say, if I sell my catalog, I no longer have control over my songs. And, I consider my songs my children. Oh, we've heard him say that before. But I won't be able to, they can put it on any little commercial, any movie soundtrack. I won't have control. And at this point, I still want control. Sometimes I will let them use it for a commercial because the songs will get out there. But sometimes I don't want to be slapped into any silly project. So I did think that was somewhat an interesting answer.
He didn't give the real answer.
He said, "Well, I'm not a communist. If somebody wants to give me $1 billion, I don't know if I could say no to that."
But remember, he lost. I believe he lost control before.
Did he? Was that with Frank Weber, perhaps?
Yeah. The same thing happened to Springsteen. The same thing happened to Meatloaf. The same thing happened to a bunch of people. Those are people who haven't sold their catalogs either, probably for similar reasons. It's always good to hear him. I'll admit, I was on Ticketmaster on Tuesday morning or Wednesday morning trying to get tickets for the show that he's doing down here at the Hard Rock. And when they went on sale,
keep me in mind.
Yeah, I'm not keeping anybody in mind, because I wasn't going to pay $300 for a ticket to go see Allentown again. I mean, I would love to see him in that small of a venue. It's only about 7.
What is he doing? The Hard Rock? Is he doing the Hard Rock?
Yeah.
I saw him the llast time he did the Hard Rock. It was probably like
No, that wasn't the last time. He did it a couple of years ago because I got tickets for.
All right,
I didn't go. I didn't go. My brother went, and he said it was great. I would love to, but it's just the prices are ridiculous. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, when I saw him
that much to put on a concert.
When I saw him at the Hard Rock, he did stop in Nevada, which was kind of cool. I don't want to get into an inside Billy. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. Really quick, let's do a couple of quick hitters while I'm hearing your comments. The Bruce Mellencamp duet. What did you think? I heard it a couple of times. I like it. I heard the Mellencamp interview on E Street Radio. Give us your quick thoughts on
I didn't hear the Mellencamp interview. I like the song. I kind of wish that if you're going to take Bruce and Mellencamp and you're going to put them together for the first time, I'd kind of like to hear more of a rocker rather than the most depressing lyrics I've ever heard in my life. But it's still it's a good song. and I enjoyed the video. I enjoy the video. But it's nothing. It's nothing I'd ever want to hear in concert, or it's nothing I ever, could have been more special. Yeah, let's put it that way.
I feel the same way. When I heard it and I saw the video, same thing. Pretty much the same thing. And I guess I kept on saying to myself, why not 15 years earlier? I see it a lot with these. Same thing with Schwarzenegger and Stallone on the movie. I go, why couldn't we gotten this a little bit? Not even 30. Give me 15 years when they were perhaps still not in their prime, but maybe more in the wheelhouse. But again, I thought it was fine. I just thought it was fine. It was okay. I wasn't like, oh my God!
Well, the interesting thing is how Springsteen is teaming up with other artists right now over the last, maybe year or so, because there are some other duets that he's done which are really good. The one he did with the Killers I thought was fantastic. He did one with the Bleachers, which I thought was really good.
What was the second one you said?
With the Killers is like Dusttown.
The one
the Bleachers.
The one after the Killers.
The Bleachers.
I didn't care for that one. The Killers track is the best one by far. Yeah.
The Killers one is amazing, but you didn't really like the one with I forgot the name of it, but I really liked it, and it's where they're on the roof.
No, I didn't care for it as much.
I liked it.
That was the first one, I believe, over the last year.
Yeah.
The first
but that Killers one is really good. I really
the Killers are a solid band themselves. So
the Bleachers the Bleachers are good too, but they try to sound very retro, and sometimes they do well, and sometimes they don't.
Yeah, the Mellencamp interview was actually pretty good. That's the kind of stuff I want to hear. I'm kind of even getting a little, just a slightly sick even of E Street Radio, but nonetheless, basically Mellencamp says, I'm too much of a control freak. That's why I haven't done more artist, duets, and because it's my band and I want to be able to call the shots. But with a guy like Bruce Springsteen, I have such a deep respect for him. We were able to, to get it done, and I think they did it in Jersey, and he got.
Yeah, I think they did it in Bruce's house. I remember there were like pictures of them having lunch together on the boardwalk or something.
So that was
I'm just glad they're both active right now. I'm happy about that.
The other thing about the video, which I caught my eye, was Bruce is really thin.
Yes,
and I think that's probably a good thing as you get older. If and my dad's always said to me, with working out and stuff like that, you stay thin as you get, as you age. And Bruce looked pretty, not gaunt, but he looked pretty stick thin, like as thin as I could ever remember him. And I don't know, he's probably on some wacky diet or something like that.
I hope that's what it is. But look, he's talking like he's planning some kind of tour with the band, so he's obviously feeling like he's in good shape. But I agree with you.
Get the tickets, double it, triple it, double it again.
Yeah, that's what we do. That for that.
All right, Andrew. Last show we talked about what did we talk about?
The Many Saints of Newark.
So we did promo. The other big release. Well, obviously Dune was a big one on HBO Max, but
I'm not interested in it. Other people are talking about it. I'm not really interested in it. I saw the one with Sting, and that was pretty good. Do we really need another one?
Actually, that one is considered a major flop. It
didn't make a lot of money, but I thought it was still pretty good.
Did you see Halloween Kills, the sequel to Halloween?
I did.
The reboot of 1,000 times.
Yeah, I did.
The floor is yours, Andrew. Why don't you give everybody here in Nothing Worthwhile Land your thoughts and a quick review on Halloween Kills?
I enjoyed the experience of watching Halloween Kills. It is definitely flawed. I like the mythology of Michael Myers. I've seen all of them. I'm pretty sure. There are no, in my opinion, there are no really bad ones. There are strong ones and weak ones. This is kind of in the middle. The 2018 Halloween I thought was really good. because it was kind of scary. This one wasn't scary. That was the problem. It was just a kill fest. It was just, Michael Myers is still alive and he's just going after literally everybody. So there was nothing really suspenseful about it. That being said, it was still fun to watch. The old characters that they brought back with the original actors was really fun to see. Jamie Lee Curtis, even though she wasn't in it that much, her role was she did a very good job. And it's just I'm actually really looking forward to seeing how they wrap the thing up, which I think is next year. So if nothing else, this sequel got me, like, the way it ended got me like, okay, let's see what they're going to end up doing with this to wrap up the trilogy. So I give it 2.5 out of 4 slashes. Whatever.
4 knives.
Yeah, four meat cleavers.
Right.
It was fun. What did you think?
Thank you, Andrew. I'm going to tell you. You actually hit upon a lot of my criticisms. So I'll start off comparing it to the last big release, which was Many Saints of Newark, where I felt like Many Saints of Newark was not that great, but it gained some momentum as the movie progressed. I felt the opposite of Halloween Kills. I thought the movie started off pretty cool with a kind of a retro callback to the 70s.
Yeah.
And then completely lost momentum. This movie, to me, felt like a stopgap middle movie that's going to take us to the third and final. It almost felt like at the end of the movie, you didn't even need this movie. Because ultimately, like you said, you don't see Jamie Lee Curtis. You don't get any kind of payoff with her and Michael Myers.
It's not about her. She's got literally nothing to do with the movie other than to
thank you. I'm giving my review. Then you can comment afterwards. Thank you, damn it. It's my birthday, damn it.
Oh yeah.
No. I'm joking. I didn't. You. Thank you. You referenced the first one in 2018. This does not even, in my estimation, hold a candle to 2018. The violence, and I'm not a wussy, was very gratuitous.
Yes,
very, very gratuitous. And then the other thing was, again, I felt like they're very preachy. You actually referenced that in Many Saints of Newark. I listened to the callback. Moody felt Many Saints of Newark was preachy. This one was, again, I felt like they're going to try to slide some agenda into a fucking horror movie. We're going to get a dissertation on mob violence, which is fine if it's done well. The scene where the mental patient, the escaped mental hospital patient, gets trapped on the floor and jumps to his death was so silly and so stupid and so pandering. And then of course the older cop says, "It's like we've become monsters too." Come on,
Bracket.
people.
And he was in the original. He was in the original.
I don't give a damn if he was in the beginning. No, the beginning of the movie was cool. You get a lot of nostalgia callbacks with the old movies. I love seeing the lady from the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. She played. That was great. She was great. But then, Andy, the ending, I was so upset and disappointed. Now, you mentioned the lore of Michael Myers. Now, all of a sudden, they want to take it to, like Halloween 6, 7, 8 territory. You have a guy in the first one who's escaped from a mental, and now all of a sudden, now they're going to kind of hint he's superhuman, and now he's like an entity. Where in the first Halloween, he clearly, I just felt like the whole scene at the end where he gets beat down by the mob, and I'm not saying it, just I don't know. I just was like, that's the ending. F you. You get, and then you see again Laurie Strode, and the movie is hinting that Halloween Kills is going to be this final, ultimate confrontation. So it just felt like a weird stopgap movie. Like, let's drum up enough plot to throw it in there so we can get a third movie and make more money. And I'll give it 2 slashes because it's well done. Michael looks great. The actors do a fine job with the material, but it's not a good Halloween movie, not in my estimation. No.
What did you think of the actual ending where we could spoil it? I forgot her name already, but the
daughter is
Laurie
killed?
Strode's daughter is killed. To me, I thought that was kind of a gutsy move because she's a main character in this series. That's Hitchcockian, that's something he would do. I kind of wish they did it earlier in the movie. That would have been a shocker.
Yeah, I don't know if she's really dead, but
that's true too.
I'll give you credit. But I was so upset with the prior scene that it just I felt like we're back to schlocky Halloween 7 and 8, which I kind of enjoyed for other reasons. Those schlock fests, but
didn't we see one of them in the movies together? Didn't we go? I feel like I feel like on a camp trip we saw H2O.
I feel like we saw 8 with Paul Rudd in that really weird ending.
Wasn't that the one? That was the one with Jamie Lee where she was like
H2O.
She was like at the private school or something, right?
Yeah, H2O was a reboot and done well, and then they messed it up with Halloween Resurrection afterwards with Busta Rhymes and the whole reality show thing. Yeah. Totally hit the can. So
I did like Rob Zombie's first one though. Did you?
Yeah. I mean, the second one was not good.
Right.
But I felt like the first Halloween in 2018, 2019 was very, very solid. This one, I'm sorry.
All right, I'm just about with you on that one.
No.
I liked it a little better than you did, but not much.
When the cop Brackett, as you say, looks up and goes, "We're like monsters too."
I was reminded of that beautiful scene with Will Smith from The Legend of Bagger Vance. The game of golf is kind of like the game of life. I was really moved.
All right, At least that movie is a is a drama piece.
Oh, that movie's terrible.
I mean, all right,
no, I know. I'm kidding. I think it's they're both ridiculous. But
I was like literally giving the double bird to the screen. I was like,
Did you go? Did you watch it on the Peacock or did you go to the theater?
No, I watched it on Peacock.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, I'm going.
Very, very gratuitous. Especially the one scene that really shocked me.
Wait, I want to see if we agree. So go ahead.
Give me the scene.
You go first. Then we'll see.
The one scene that really got me. Well, not got me. Listen. I know I'm not bothered by any of it. But was when he kills the black lady and the white
and
guy.
Lenny Clark. That's yep.
And she's like, they kind of intimate that she's alive in some form or fashion, and he's just stabbing the shit out of Lenny Clark.
He's like, Sandra. He's like, I'm like, Lenny, die already.
Dead. And Michael's just, and I'm like,
he's grabbing, when he's grabbing the knives out of the holder. Yeah, I was like, number one, who are these people? Number two, why are we spending so much time watching them get bloodletting? I mean, the gore was like, if you look at the original 1978 one, there's very little blood in there, if any. It's all suspense.
There's none. As a matter of fact. As a matter of fact, I actually watched on Netflix. They have a series called "Movies Made Us," and they have one on the original Halloween.
Yes, I saw it,
and I watched two of them. I watched the Aliens, of course. I was very interested, but on the Halloween, they claim that they don't even show like insertion of weapon. Like
it's all insinuated
of the mind.
Yeah. This movie could have taken a cue from its own inspiration, but oh well.
All right. Well, that was our depressing review of Halloween Kills, and I guess Halloween Ends will be coming out this time next year, and I will definitely be interested to see it because I am a huge fan. I'm hoping they'll redeem themselves in my eyes anyway. All right, crew, let's move on. On last Saturday, or with our last show, we talked about the retirement announcement of former Van Halen frontman David Lee Roth. David Lee announced his retirement, Groo, in an interview with the Las Vegas Review-Journal. He told everybody he's throwing in his shoes, he's retiring. His announcement, Groo, came just shy of a year after Eddie Van Halen, the band's lead guitarist, died of cancer. David Lee referenced Van Halen's death in the call with the Las Vegas newspaper, saying he had been thinking about the departure of my beloved classmate. I am encouraged and compelled to really come to grips with how short time is, and my time is probably even shorter. Pretty deep stuff for David Lee. We already talked about Groo, that David Lee Roth has 5 shows scheduled at the House of Blues beginning New Year's Eve. So it'll be the end of an era, Groo, as Diamond Dave will be heading off into the rock and roll sunset. So today, Groo and I will look at David Lee Roth's final run with Van Halen, the many rumors of a reunion, the start-stop appearances with Van Halen at the 1996 Video Music Awards, the final reunion, the first David Lee Roth helmed Van Halen album in 28 years, A Different Kind of Truth. Groo, everyone is aware of the long, rich history with David Lee Roth and Van Halen, but I think you did reference this on the last podcast, but were you surprised at David Lee Roth's retirement announcement about 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, it's very not like him to profess mortality, as it were. He's usually the one who defies it, or at least pretends to defy it. He's like, he's always the one who's saying, like, yeah, we're only as young as we feel, and so we're going to go out there and we're going to take the bat and hit the football down through the gates of youth or whatever, all his nonsense. This time, all of a sudden, he's sounding pretty maudlin, saying, all right, maybe maybe it's time to pack it in. I don't think it didn't sound like he was making any kind of like health announcement. He was just saying, maybe it's a way for him to say, look, I know my voice is gone, and so let's just end this. But then he puts out a tour advertisement.
Right? I haven't seen that.
You just saw that? It was like the final tour, unless it isn't. That's literally what it's called. For a 5-day residency in Vegas.
Okay, so it's not that he's actually
no, right. But it's advertised like that. So, but yeah, it was odd for him to make that kind of a blanket statement. But hey, you know what? Look, the guy's earned the right to do kind of what he wants, I guess, in certain areas. Would you be interested in seeing him right now?
Yes.
So would
simply because simply because of the retirement announcement.
Yeah.
And again, how many times have we been hoodwinked by that? But that would be fine. Sure.
And we'd know we'd have a great time.
I think he's a legend.
He is.
And I think he's one of the greatest frontmen of all time. Not vocalist.
Right.
Definitely one of the greatest frontmen of all time.
Yeah.
And I think perhaps the death of Eddie Van Halen. I don't know. Maybe made him take a mini step back and take a look at everything. I don't know how close they were. Both have referenced in separate interviews that they were really not very close.
Isn't
surface
it strange? Level, isn't it strange for you to when you hear these things? All right, people have been working, have been synonymous with each other for so long. Coming out later and saying they hardly know each other, like Shatner and Sulu, like things like that, like even Sambora and Bon Jovi, like it disappoints me, and it bleeds into my enjoyment of seeing them on stage, or it's kind of a bummer, don't you think? When like Eddie said before he passed away, he's like, yeah, I don't know, Dave doesn't really want to be friends or something, and Dave's like, yeah, I'm not even I don't even have Eddie's phone number. It's like, what? You're side by side for all these years, and I mean, I either don't buy it or it just bums me out, All
right, so I think if you're specifically referencing Van Halen, it would have been a real nice bow to kind of for both of them to put off the image, or truth or not, that, hey, like after these years we came together and we have sort of a real wholesome, legitimate friendship. I won't call whatever they did illegitimate. And Andy, you're right, but I do also say how many people in our lives, stand the test of time for 40 plus years? So there are always peaks and valleys. And maybe perhaps it is the opportunity for money or not. But Eddie said a lot of stuff, and not horrifically bad, but Eddie even referenced that David Lee doesn't even listen to rock and roll anymore, doesn't like the music we play. He's more into like a dance and some other stuff. So the last comments he did, like apparently a guitar thing with like the Smithsonian, and he did like a press interview, and he said, like you said, like I barely talked to the guy. I'm not even sure I have his number. I don't know where he's even at. So what can you do? Yeah,
look, everybody's their own person, but I try to think about it in our own lives, like people it's not just working together, it's creating together. Like creating stuff that hundreds of millions of people are going to be singing long after you're gone. And to have that reduced to, oh yeah, we did that together. Oh, we made that song together. Oh yeah, that was cool. It's almost like they. And I'll actually have more to say about that because it does kind of relate to one of the things that we're going to talk about. But it's just a bummer that it seems to me that these people kind of look at their previous work through that kind of lens. Like it doesn't matter to them as much as it matters to us. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does. And I wish I had a good response, but perhaps at the end of the day, listen, you're talking about now years since these guys have been at their creative peak. Yeah. So as time goes by, perhaps things become settled in, and again, those pieces of creativity become your catalog, and your catalog gets monetized, and your tour gets monetized, and it's a question of, can we get these people in a bus on a stage together without killing themselves to do a 2-hour plus show, and everybody gets a nice piece of the pie? I don't know. Perhaps. Yeah.
Well, it's just, it's obviously a very strange business.
Well, Groo, trouble started following the 1984 tour. David Lee Roth decided to quit and form his own band. Van Halen members have given different reasons for the split, but all were firmly rooted in control of the band's sound, whether it's keyboards versus guitar, artistic direction, singles, release, and pace. Roth was concerned about Eddie playing music outside of Van Halen. Roth was also launching a successful solo career with 2 hit cover songs off of his Crazy from the Heat EP, a remake of the Beach Boys' classic California Girls, which was number 3 in the United States, and a pairing of the classic Al Jolson standard Just a Gigolo and I Ain't Got No Body, which was number 12 in the U.S. So, Groo, the Sammy Hagar era of Van Halen came and went, and suddenly an old familiar face came back into the Van Halen fold. So, Groo, we were quite young. David Lee Roth leaves the band. Sammy Hagar comes on board. No need to get into the further history, but any thoughts when you first heard David Lee Roth was leaving Van Halen, or when Sammy Hagar was coming on board?
Yeah, it was a very mixed bag, because Van Halen is specifically that record and song, Jump, really was my introduction to that kind of music. I remember, I've told this story before, I remember it was after a Little League game. I'm sitting in a Pizza Hut on Route 110 in Melville, and somebody puts Jump on the jukebox, and I had never heard anything like it before, and immediately I made my dad take me across the street to the Walt Whitman Mall, to Record World, where he bought the vinyl for me of 1984, nice, which I still have somewhere. And it was, it was the greatest. I just never heard, and I listened to the whole album. They were the first artists, the first band that I really became familiar with all the members by name. I just listened to that album cover to cover. I'd never heard anything else by the band until a few years later. I was only listening to 1984, and then I was too young to understand that they were out touring, that like the whole thing. But then it's announced, or I think the first thing I saw was MTV on like their awards show, or maybe it was their Headbangers Ball New Year's Eve. They premiered his California Girls video, Dave's video, and I think that was the beginning of the murmurs that that he might be leaving Van Halen, which was a bummer. But Sammy Hagar coming into the fold, I was unhappy that Dave was leaving, but I was not unhappy with Sammy Hagar because I actually knew of him, and I knew that song, I Can't Drive 55. It was a great video and a great song. I remember that was when I started watching him. I started watching MTV for Van Halen, and obviously I saw so many other things. I Can't Drive 55 was one of them, so it's like, all right, well, if he's leaving, this is the next best thing. So I was like, all right, you could do a lot worse. So it wasn't a tragedy. The tragedy was Dave leaving, but his replacement was, a very logical choice. So it wasn't a terrible thing.
Yeah, I liked the whole the Crazy from the Heat EP. I think David Lee Roth back then was like an MTV star. I mean, like his videos were must see. Yeah. They were always very quirky with strange characters and a lot of comedy and
a couple of the Van Halen videos were like that too. Hot for Teacher, was kind of like that. They had like it was his sense of humor that they were that they were going after. But do you think? I just have a question for you. Do you think that Dave really left because he thought he was the rock star of the group, and I'm not sure it had to do with the type of music as much as everyone thinks, because he kind of went in that direction himself a little bit, solo-wise.
Good question, Andrew. I actually don't think it was about David Lee being the star, and from most reports, it was a little bit about the direction of the music, and David Lee was not a fan of the keyboards. And again, I would imagine that would be overall, dare I say, silly reason to, but I'm not in a band, and I don't know. Yeah, but I mean, it's like I told you in a sense I came around a little bit about Bret Hart. So at the end of the day, it is your art, and it's really all you could stand by. When you're younger, like you said now, it's been 30 years since their creative peak. Perhaps it's just a catalog. But back then, could it lead to, when you're in your 20s or 30s, and it could lead to a breakup. David Lee was definitely had surpassed Van Halen, and he was certainly the front man. But from what I've read, it was more about the direction of the music and in the direction of some of the guys. But certainly David Lee seems to have a fairly strong, healthy ego. So could it have been, to pursue his own? I don't know.
Maybe.
When it comes to Sammy Hagar, I knew of I Can't Drive 55 as well. I do know though when that 5150 first came out and Why Can't This Be Love? I was really digging that single. Wow, I sound like an old timer. But I remember, that I was like, wow, that's good stuff, and it sounded pretty, hard rocking to Van Halen. So I felt like the band was in good hands. So my initial thoughts on Sammy Hagar were pretty positive with him joining Van Halen too.
Well, that's the thing. Why, you mentioned Why Can't This Be Love? It's a really good song.
It is a good song.
That song to me does not sound like a Van Halen song. Others on that record do. Get Up is definitely something that could have been written for David Lee Roth. What's that other one? Best of Both Worlds. There are some real great songs on there that do have that old sound. But some of the other good ones, look, Love Walks In is a really good song. I do really like that song, but it's not a Van Halen song to me. Do you know what I mean?
I hear you. I see your point. I think of them all now as Van Halen songs, but Why Can't This Be Love was rocking enough for me. I don't know if I thought of it as a David Lee Roth Van Halen song, but it was close enough where I was like, this is good stuff. And
at least it was good. Yes, it was. That album is a really good rock album, I have to say.
Yeah, it's their best one with Sammy Hagar, as far as I'm concerned. So that's what I'll say about that.
I kind of like OU812. I know you do too. I know you do also.
I do, yeah. But 5150, that first one with
you're right,
Jones
you're right.
producing, it's rocking.
Mick Jones. It wasn't Templeman. It was Mick Jones. Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I could see the influence.
That's how Billy Joel. That's how Billy Joel got it.
Oh yes, yep. You're right. I remember now. Yeah.
Groo in 1996, a temporary reunion with David Lee Roth. David Lee Roth called Eddie to discuss what tracks would be planned on a Van Halen compilation. This was work which had actually begun before Sammy Hagar's departure. They got along well, and Eddie invited him up to his house. Shortly afterwards, Roth re-entered the studio with the band and producer Glenn Ballard. 2 songs from those sessions were added to the Best of Volume 1 album and released as singles to promote it. Me Wise Magic and Can't Get This Stuff No More. Groo, did you like those initial David Lee Roth-led Van Halen singles off Greatest Hits?
Oh, yeah. I loved both of those songs, especially Me Wise Magic. But, yeah, those are great songs. I just have to. I can't put it any other way. Me Wise Magic has a chorus that's as good as anything they've ever done, and the guitar playing on both of those songs, Eddie's guitar playing is phenomenal. You know, you can tell that Dave's voice is not the same as it once was, but
it's still pretty good.
It is good. It is good. He does a couple of those old-fashioned wails. Yeah, but I love those 2 songs. But listening to them now, even though I'm playing, you'll be able to hear it later. I'm playing a riff from Me Wise Magic right now, but to hear them today depresses me a little bit because I see how good that they were, and I can just imagine if they could just have not fucked it up, how good the music they could have done at that time when everybody was still firing on all cylinders, you know, how good it could have been, but it was not to be. But yeah, I love those songs. What'd you think of them?
Agreed with both your points, but to me, Can't Get This Stuff No More, that to me is the standout album cut. I'd love to hear that live. We'll never get that live from Van Halen, but that's an album cut that that I super enjoy. It's got a little bit of that theatrical flair that is kind of common with David Lee. But again, Can't Get This Stuff No More. Back, when I heard that song, it was like, you guys are getting rock and roll on the radio, but you're not getting Van Halen, David Lee Roth rock and roll. And this is our statement. And the lyrics are a little daffy, a little David Lee, but I agree. It sounded like David Lee Roth Van Halen, and it was really, really good stuff. But
that stuff came out. That stuff came out after they were already broken up again. Am I right about that?
I think it right around the time. Yeah. Because let's go back to Groo. Van Halen in September of '96 was asked to present at the 1996 MTV Video Music Awards. On September 4th, the 4 original members of Van Halen made their first public appearance together in over 11 years. Okay, so this was all right. They had released it before this incident because it brought the compilation to #1 on the U.S. album charts. Let's see here. The band's appearance at the '96 MTV Video Music Awards fueled reunion speculation, but several weeks after the award show, it was discovered that Roth was out of Van Halen again. So I'll go right to it. Eddie Van Halen later explained in regard to the MTV Video Music Awards that he initially had been embarrassed by David Lee Roth's antics while on camera behind Beck, who was giving an acceptance speech for the award, that Van Halen had presented to him. So if I remember correctly, David Lee came on and made a thing, which was, hey, let's acknowledge this is the first time the core four of Van Halen have been on stage together in 11 years. That got a nice applause bump, and then they went to present. I think Beck got like Best New Artist, and supposedly Eddie Van Halen was upset that David Lee was kind of gumming it up for the cameras, while Beck, who's an alt rock serious artist, so to speak, was getting this award. Let's see here. So the band was taken to a backstage press conference where press queries about a reunion tour was met with Eddie saying that he needed a hip replacement and would have to record an entire new album before any tour. In private, Groo Roth told Eddie to avoid talking about negative things like his hip, and the two almost came to blows backstage, thereby shattering the chance of any full-scale reunion. Incredible bits of information. You can almost feel the rivalry simmering as you listen to sort of this narrative. Bandmates supposedly reunited, almost coming to blows backstage. Groo, Van Halen reunites. Van Halen breaks up with David Lee Roth again. I know even back in '96, Andrew had a lot to say to me all the way back then. You remember. A lot of phone calls, a lot of emails, and everything else. So, Andy, let's go back to the way back when time machine. 1996 Video Music Awards. It's a fascinating appearance.
Yes,
Van Halen with David Lee Roth.
I'm so glad you remember how much we talked about this when it happened, because
we didn't.
This is pre-internet. We didn't know this was happening until it happened. So I remember sitting in my mom's house at the kitchen table watching the MTV Awards and hearing Dennis Miller, the host, introduce Van Halen. I figured, I didn't even know Sammy Hagar was out of the band at that time. And then I hear Running with the Devil playing. I'm like, wait a minute. Why would they be playing this for Van Halen? Then I see Roth. Roth is the last one out. I'm like, holy shit, I can't believe this is happening. And the pop from that audience, I remember Billy Corgan almost led a wave in the audience. Like he was jumping up and down, and it was a huge moment. And Dave was being Dave. And all the stuff that he was doing, I remember and I have watched that thing over and over and over again. I've seen it so many times because it really is fascinating. My theory, okay, which is the same theory I had back then, is that Eddie was really, and I love Eddie Van Halen, and rest in peace, but I gotta go against him on this one, because I really felt that he was trying to draw attention away from the elephant in the room, which was this reunion. Because the second he gets up to that microphone, everybody is still screaming for the fact that Dave and Eddie are together again, and Eddie is ignoring it. And he's like, okay, we're here to present Best Male Video. Hi, Wolfie, how you doing? Like he's instead of acknowledging what's going on and looking at the crowd and saying, hey, look at this thing. Okay, he's moving in another direction, and I kind of think that he was hit with the sudden realization that the band, they were cheering for David Lee Roth.
Yes,
and he was probably like, wait a minute, I'm Van Halen, not him. I can't help but feel he had something like that in his head, and that's how the rest of that whole debacle went, because Dave was doing Dave. Dave was, he announced Beck as the winner, and it was a huge, he was like, and it goes to Beck, he was doing Dave, and it was great. There was nothing embarrassing about it as far as the band should be concerned. Was it silly? Yes. Was it MTV? Yes. Was it rock and roll? Yes. Relax, take it easy, come off your high horse.
There's the key point.
Yeah. So that, I think, now do I think that Dave did that whole thing with the hip backstage? Absolutely. That's absolutely something he would do. But you said the operative word. Don't talk about negative things. Dave was probably high as a kite, and he was probably like, don't be negative, man. This is positive. I could totally see him being like that. And Eddie was taken things very, very seriously from beginning to end. So that's my theory on that.
I think you pretty much hit it on the. I think at this stage of his career, Eddie was transitioning or had transitioned into very serious artist. He had moved away from the 80s and 70s and 80s party boy. I think to some extent that's started the initial riff with Sammy Hagar. I think that they didn't like Sammy would play to the females with the panties, and I think he wanted to sort of move away from that. And I just think the timing was just not right for David Lee, because David Lee, like you said, is going to be David Lee. Now, probably upon hindsight, maybe you'd want David Lee to take it just a tad bit more seriously or solemnly, but that wasn't him, or that wasn't him back then. I do put most of the onus on Eddie Van Halen.
Yeah.
To the comment about negative, I don't have a problem with that at all. I agree. Hey, we're here. We don't need to put a squelch on perhaps the biggest reunion at that point ever in rock and roll history.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe besides Led Zeppelin. I mean, David Lee Roth with Van Halen was back in '96. It happened years later, but in '96, that's every fanboy's wet. I mean, every rock kid wanted that.
Oh, my dreams were wet about that. You could say it.
I'm saying it's 10 out of 10. So I think that, and then I think what kind of, for me, started as a fan, I remember watching MTV, and he's on there with his brother Alex sitting on a couch smoking a cigarette, just being too cool.
We played that in the opening. Yes.
So he's being too cool for the room.
Right.
And even back, I was in my 20s, he's bashing Lee Roth, he's bashing Hagar, and the one thing he's not looking at is himself. What's the role that I play in all this? And I'm watching this going, and I'm definitely not as mature as I am perhaps now, and I'm like, wait a second, dude. You're going to go on there. They're not perfect, don't get me wrong, but you're going to bash David Lee Roth, you're going to bash Sammy Hagar, two pretty solid rock vocalists, and you're not going to look at yourself like I was like, I started to call bullshit on Eddie Van Halen. Like, dude, you just
Alex
you had
too.
2 breakups.
Alex too.
Well, Alex basically just sits there and yeses his brother to death.
Yeah, but he said he said some interesting things too. But like you said, for that to go so wrong so quickly, and their stories. Oddly enough,
I mean, can I interject real quick?
Yeah,
do you feel like though it's like a cut? Like once the scab is ripped off, all those feelings bubbled up to the surface again.
It had to have. I mean, I would think so, but because he was probably not easy to get along with ever. No,
I agree.
But you take the good with the bad. He's kind of like William Shatner. Everybody hated him, but you can't deny that he was the straw that stirred the drink. Although I don't put this in the same category, because I really do think I give Eddie a lot of credit. I mean, Eddie is, to me, still the greatest guitar player I've ever witnessed, and that's where the music came from. But that aside, their stories about this whole incident are exactly the same until the point where Eddie says he was very plain about their intentions. Roth said they said he was back in the band, and they were.
So can I ask you?
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. Hearing, it's not even part of my notes. So Andy's referencing that supposedly Eddie said to David Lee, "I never promised you a permanent spot in the band. Just this 2-track cut on the greatest hits." Who do you believe? David Lee Roth says, "No, you invited me back in the band." Eddie says, "Hold on, we were just going to do this and see what the future had for us."
I believe David Lee Roth, and here's why: because Dave, as nuts as he is, he never really lies. Like he does, like he's got no reason to lie. Eddie's got the credibility issue. Dave doesn't have a credibility problem.
What about the notion that they auditioned other singers, like in my notes, Mitch Malloy? I wasn't even going to bring up, but I have this on my notes, which you have on YouTube, cuts with Mitch Malloy. I don't even know who Mitch Malloy is, but apparently Mitch Malloy was a singer that they brought in.
And I think Sebastian Bach as well.
They're saying he was brought in during the time of their dalliance with David Lee Roth.
Yes, and they did not, at least according to Dave, they didn't tell Roth that this was happening. They announced them as Van Halen on that show in front of the entire world, and they're going to be behind the scenes auditioning other singers. I'm surprised Van Halen made it out of that thing alive. Meaning that I'm surprised the fan backlash wasn't stronger than it was, because I do believe David Lee Roth on that one. I believe they were being secretive, and they were trying to just milk the sales for the greatest hits package. Ray Daniels, the manager, I think was related to Alex in some way through marriage at the time. So I think there was a lot of shenanigans going on that Dave was not privy to. So I believe David Lee Roth on that one. And
was there ever?
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Andrew.
Well, I was just going to say because
he goes, and then David and Ray Daniels, and I'm like,
well, a lot of the reasons.
Let me ask you: was there ever a notion? Was there a notion that it was supposed to be Van Halen with David Lee Roth? I felt like I heard that, like that was supposed to be a backhanded, like you're not a permanent member of the band. It was going to be Van Halen with David Lee Roth. Like perhaps the with means they could bring in other. Another lead vocalist for another time.
I've
so heard that they were announced as Van Halen on the Video Music Awards.
Yes. Dennis Miller said Van Halen, ladies and gentlemen.
Like Dostoevsky in the.
Well, did you hear? Well, no, you didn't hear it, but you'll remember because he actually does one of his over everybody's head jokes about it. He's like, our next presenters are the sole survivors of the Dick Sargent, I Dream of Jeannie debacle. It's Van Halen, and everyone's like, "What the fuck is he talking about?" I mean, I knew what he was talking about, but an MTV audience is going to know who the hell they are.
There was two losers in Melville laughing. It was Groo and me. Like, I get that joke. Everybody else, your dad was like, "Huh? I'm going to go upstairs and get a slice of pizza."
Yeah, I know. My mom was sitting there like, look, I know you're all excited, but just do your fucking homework, please.
Yeah. Well, incredible stuff, Groo. So, as we know, the Gary Cherone era of Van Halen came and went. Another appearance by Sammy Hagar. But just like one Michael Myers, David Lee Roth to Van Halen just won't die. So we do have a second reunion with David Lee Roth and Wolfgang Van Halen. So rumors grew of a David Lee Roth Van Halen reunion reemerged around January 3rd, 2006. David Lee explained during an interview that he had spoken to Alex Van Halen the previous week, and a reunion was, quote, inevitable. He did also note that Andy Van Halen was off in his own little world. When asked if any of the problems occurred with Hagar during the 2004 tour, Eddie answered, "Sammy is Sammy, and for the most part, that's just fine." David Lee Roth persisted with suggestions of a reunion, saying, "People want the reunion, and no one will pay respect to what any of us do musically until we get the reunion out of way." In May 2006, David Lee Roth told Billboard.com, "There's been contact between the two camps." Groo, David Lee Roth, well, at least in my notes, it's such a long time ago. David Lee's a really daffy type of guy. But I do think he hits it right on the head when he says people want a reunion and they don't really care about they do musically along the way. They want David Lee Roth back in Van Halen. Groo, your thoughts? Was the fan base really that hungry for a David Lee return?
Yes, but I wouldn't go as far as Dave went to say that that's all they'd accept, because I do believe I do believe that if that Van Halen 3 album with Gary Cherone was good, the fans would have bought it, but it's not good. But the reason that I say this is because I saw Van Halen with Cherone twice.
Okay.
And I loved it. I had a great time. It was a lot of fun. Number one, they were bringing back some Roth era songs that Sammy Hagar never touched, so that was great. But Cherone's a great performer, and the band was in great form, and it was definitely a great time. They only played like one song from their new album, which was I think called Can't. I don't know. I forget. Fire in the Hole, something like that. I forget it. It's not a good. It's not a good album. No, Without You. It's called. Without You. It's called. There was a video.
Yeah, that was
must
the
be
single.
some kind of way that we. But yeah. So you know,
without you.
Yeah.
Without you.
But here's the thing. The moment that I realized that, all right, this is they gotta get back with Roth at some point, was when they sat down at the concert, Eddie and Gary on stools, and played More Than Words from Extreme. I was like, give me a fucking break. I like that song, but not at a Van Halen concert. You know, like, so, and I had already seen... No, I hadn't seen Van Halen with Sammy Hagar yet because they got back together with him after Sharon for a tour, correct? Yes, they must have. Yeah. But I do feel that, yes, the fans were really clamoring for an original lineup, at least a tour, if not an album. They certainly weren't accepting anything that Dave was doing solo. That's for sure.
No, not at this point. Yeah. Wow, that's interesting, your comments, because, listen, there's some lines that should not be crossed, and playing More Than Words at a Van Halen concert. Yeah. I'm sorry. No disrespect to Extreme.
It's a beautiful song, but not at a Van Halen concert, like I said.
Yeah, it's like... It's like playing like the Long Valley Road at like a great.
It's like yeah.
Oh wait, it's like AC do that. Actually.
It's like AC/DC said, "Okay, this is a Bob Dylan song called To Make You Feel My Love." What are you doing?
I think people like I look back on the Gary. I didn't see them live. I look back on it wistfully. I think seeing that show live is interesting only in the sense that you're getting a guy who could do both Hagar and Roth era songs, and you've never gotten a Van Halen show to really an extent that integrated both sort of camps. So I think that's an interesting piece. We'll never see it. Obviously, there was some talk, it's no secret at the end of the run that perhaps there was going to be, I think, a Van Halen kitchen sink tour where they were going to get everybody involved and do. I mean, that would have been, obviously, it would have been amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, we would have gone,
and I would have been thrilled if Sharon was involved with that. Like, it would have been wrong for him not to be, if that's what they were going for. So I remember the rumors about that. Michael Anthony was coming back into the fold, and unfortunately, life got in the way.
Well, Groo, speaking of Michael Anthony, the bass player, he began...
Did I just hear...
No.
Are you not telling me
Michael
something?
Anthony, the bass player. Michael Anthony, the bass player, began a successful tour with Sammy Hagar billed as the other half, a reference to them being half of Van Halen, and the other half being Eddie and Alex, with Michael Anthony singing lead vocals, sometimes in conjunction with Sammy Hagar. Meanwhile, June 19th of 2006, the Van Halen brothers, Eddie and Alex, jumped on stage with Kenny Chesney at the Home Depot Theater performing Jump, and You Really Got Me. That was this unusual country performance was their first on stage since 2004. So let's go into some of the problems with Michael Anthony. Groo. In March 2006, Michael Anthony spoke to the Japanese rock magazine Burn, claiming that the Van Halen brothers did not want him on the 2004 reunion tour, although Hagar did, and Hagar said he would not play with Van Halen without Michael Anthony. But he had agreed to a reduced, listen to this, Michael Anthony said he had agreed to reduce royalties and end absolutely all association with the band after the tour in terms of rights to using the name of Van Halen or his name in conjunction with Van Halen for promotion. It was around the same time that Michael Anthony admitted he was not involved in the new songs on Best of Both Worlds, which was like the Sammy Hagar era greatest hits, compilation with David Lee as well. Michael Anthony Groo was essentially paid to be exited out of the band, can't use any images, etc. Pretty shocking stuff. It was like, I felt like it just happened all of a sudden and mushroomed out of control. Groo, Michael Anthony, Van Halen, no more. Any thoughts when you heard about that whole deal?
I'm guessing it had to do mostly with the fact that he continued his association with Sammy Hagar after it had been blown up. There's no other explanation for them to just immediately go cold on this guy who's been with them since the beginning. Seems like the absolute nicest guy in the world, willing to play whatever, wherever, whenever. Just tell me where to go and I'll be there. He would have probably even driven the fucking bus for them if they asked him to. So for them to just cut the ties and make him agree to such a nonsensical deal just to get up on stage and play bass. Some people theorized that it had to do with Eddie wanting to replace him with his son, which he obviously eventually did. But I think it's got more to do with he picked sides without. In Eddie's mind, he picked sides. In Mike's mind, he didn't pick sides. In mine's Mike, Van Halen wasn't playing. Michael Anthony wanted to play, and he had every right to continue to play and make money.
Right.
Eddie took it personally. This is my opinion. Eddie and Alex took it personally and said, "Fuck this guy," and that's exactly what they did. Unfortunately, I just that's another thing that's depressing. Like that people would do that. Like you can't just sit down face to face and be like, "Really? Come on, guys. How far we go back? Are we really going to do this?" But like you said earlier. This guy's camp contacted this guy's camp. It's like they're people. They've been together for all this time, and they got to have their people call them. Like, who have we become?
They're probably corporations among themselves. What about the notion you touched upon it briefly? Not about Wolfgang per se, but that Eddie was not happy with Michael Anthony's bass playing on Van Halen 3. He was reduced to a bit player. That Eddie played the bass parts. I know that was also a rumor that. Eddie wasn't happy with Michael's just pure playing.
Just comes down to who you believe. Okay. The album, the songs are not that good, but Michael Anthony does not write the songs. He just plays the parts. There's certainly nothing on there that stands out as bad bass playing. Although I wouldn't be able to identify bad bass playing I'm not that musically inclined. But I gotta think that it's all connected. It's all it's like Eddie seemed to be looking for an excuse to get rid of Michael Anthony because I don't know. None of it makes sense. So I have to think that, and you got to remember. I mean, I'm guessing you cover it, but you got to remember Eddie was drinking pretty heavily around these years, I believe. I know around the 2004 tour, right?
Yeah, well,
he was wackadoo.
Yeah,
around that.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Eddie, on December 11th, 2006, Eddie stated to Guitar World magazine that David Lee Roth has been directly invited to rejoin Van Halen. However, on December 28th in 2006, David Lee Roth announced that he had not talked to Eddie in over 2 years, and a reunion with Van Halen could result in a quote-unquote Jerry Springer-style fight. In January of 2007, Van Halen was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The Van Halen brothers, Anthony, Hagar, and Roth were inducted, though only Hagar and Anthony appeared at the induction ceremony on behalf of the group. Eddie Van Halen was in rehab at the time, so neither Eddie nor Alex attended the ceremony. Velvet Revolver had been slated to perform You Really Got Me with Roth on lead vocals. However, Roth wanted to perform Jump, and the band hadn't rehearsed that song, so Roth elected to not attend the ceremony at all. Did you see the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction? I thought for Van Halen, very disappointing, very bland induction to perhaps the greatest American rock and roll band of all time. Groo, Van Halen, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah, another debacle, and on this one...
Another debacle?
Another debacle. This one I put on Dave, I put it on Eddie, and I put it on Alex. If Eddie was in truth in rehab, that's understandable. Alex still should have shown up. Dave should have shown up. He should have played. He should have sang. They should have done it. There's no reason not to. So when you're sitting there watching Michael Anthony and Sammy Hagar accept, on one hand you're like, this is bullshit. Where's the actual band? But on the other hand, I did really like and respect what Sammy and Michael had to say. Like, they were very appreciative of the Van Halen brothers, of David Lee Roth, of everything. Those two have always been a true class act. They've really been the only class in this whole thing, and they're the ones who are super expendable. You know, it's very strange how it works.
So you know what the lesson is, Andy?
What?
You know what the lesson is?
Always be bitter and spiteful.
Yeah, nice guys finish last.
Yeah, well, we know that better than anybody.
But I remember, though, watching them play "Why Can't This Be Love" with Paul Schaefer's band, and I remember being like, "This is complete horseshit.
Yeah,
like, this is just house music, Van Halen."
Yes,
and I just could not believe. Now, I didn't watch it on YouTube to refresh it for this podcast, so I would have to go back.
No, I didn't either.
It would probably make me even more angry. But I remember at the time being like, the greatest, in my mind, one of the greatest American rock and roll bands, and it's like
certainly our favorite.
It's like the weakest link of Anthony and Hagar, no current guys, and no David Lee. It just was like, wow. And I guess in a way, you also say to yourself, wow, ego. Apparently, Eddie was sick, and David Lee Roth didn't want to do X, Y, and Z. But it just was very, very disappointing for a great band.
Now, now Velvet Revolver played "Why Can't This Be Love"? Did Sammy sing it?
Yeah, Sammy sang it. No, they did something else. I think Velvet Revolver did a David Lee song.
Okay,
I believe they did "Why Can't This Be Love" with Paul Schaefer in the band, and then they did. They all came out and did that jam, and they did Patti Smith's "People Have the Power."
Oh my god! Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
And I was like, this is not for Van Halen.
Yeah,
right? We're not doing social justice rock. This is for you too.
I was like, I'm switching over to Lifetime television for women.
Yeah, I'm watching. I'm going to go watch Catfish on MTV. What the hell's going on here? Is Sunday Night Heat on? I'm watching that. You know what I mean?
It was but all of this just adds so much. And the funny thing is, with all of this drama and all of this nonsense, the story is only half over.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because later on that month, Billboard announced on January 24th, 2007, Van Halen would indeed reunite with David Lee Roth for a U.S. tour. On February 15, 2007, Groo, the Van Halen news desk, sort of like their unofficial website, that a Van Halen Best of 1978-84 single disc compilation of the Roth era would be released on April 3rd. Various sources claim that the tour was shut down, as was the Best of CD. On March 8, 2007, Eddie announced on Van Halen's official website that he was in rehab. However, a change was made to the website. The original Van Halen Van Halen logo from their 78 debut album was on there. After nearly 10 months of speculation and rumor, Van Halen and David Lee Roth separately on his own website said that the band will be going on a tour of North America. David Lee Roth claimed in a press release that, quote, the idea is that this will continue on and on and on, and also that a world tour and a new album were both in the works. Okay, so press reaction to the reunion was very warm, but there was some criticism on the redesigned website. Everything involving Michael Anthony was removed from images of the old album artwork, pictures. I remember, I'm looking at my notes, I remember that, and I thought myself, that was a complete horseshit move by Van Halen. Mm-hmm. You don't want to work with Michael Anthony anymore, that is fine, but to erase him from the archive, so to speak, was complete horseshit. Groo, Van Halen confirms And then they removed Michael Anthony from everything on their website. What'd you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. It was complete bullshit. I don't know why they had to do that. In fact, if I was either Dave or even Wolfgang at the time, I would have been like, Eddie, whoa, come on. Do you really... Is that necessary? But at the same time, I was too happy that Roth was... that I was seeing, that I was going to be able to see Van Halen with David Lee Roth. I'm like, all right, if that's the way it's going to be, that's the way it's going to be.
I know, but you go on Van Halen's website and Women and Children First, like that iconic shot of the band, and then Michael Anthony's like grayed out, and I'm like, how effing petty.
I agree, but it wasn't gonna stop me from continuing to be a fan of the band.
Well, Groo. The album covers and the website was restored to their original condition a day later without any official press release. Wolfgang, of all people, later explained in 2020 that the omission of Michael Anthony on the website was a choice made by the band's marketing team and was done without, quote, consent of the band. Do you believe him? Because I don't.
I don't either, because if it was done without consent of the band, and then the band found out about it, if the band wasn't happy about it, they would have had it changed immediately. But that's the way it stayed for a long, long time. So no, I don't believe that. Sorry, Wolfie.
Yeah, I understand ego, but petty bullcrap.
Yeah.
It's the same thing where. I'm not going to go on a Howard rant, but Howard mentions Artie in the death of Norm Macdonald, and then it gets edited out of his official YouTube. Like, what? Why?
Did it really?
What? I don't. Yes, that's what I said on the text message with you and Craig. He mentions Artie, very nice, and then I'm like, it was noted that on his, and I went back to the official web, where he talks about Norm's death. He edits out Artie's name because he met Artie through Norm Macdonald, and I'm like, how effing petty! Like, you don't want to work with the guy anymore, I guess, but delete.
Is he going to blame it on? Is he going to blame it on his marketing team, like Wolfgang did?
Probably not.
Oh, God. If we ever get if we ever have a bad breakup,
I wouldn't do that.
If we ever have a bad breakup and I talk about nothing worthwhile with and Groo, you should come after me with a gun.
No, right. Do you imagine the editing would be like, these shows are unlistenable. Yes. Groo, the fall 2000 Van Halen tour was originally just 25 dates, but it was such a success, it was extended into 2008 with a second leg. Van Halen started their new tour with David Lee Roth on September 27, 2007 in Charlotte, North Carolina, playing to sell-out crowds. The tour generated positive reviews. There was, of course, rumors of Eddie Van Halen being back in rehab. There was rumors, and of course, multiple dates on that first leg were postponed. The official reason was the need for medical procedures to be run on Eddie. Let me see what I got here. On March 5th, 2008, World Entertainment Weekly reported to CBS News that the reunion had been interrupted, as was Eddie needing to re-enter rehab. The report also indicated that there had been a furious backstage bust-up in the state of Florida, no less, with Wolfgang Van Halen. I guess. Eddie and Wolfgang went to blows behind the scenes backstage at a show in Florida
with each other.
I wonder if.
I know.
So. I wonder if I was. I wonder if I was at that show.
You were.
I was at the.
You were
one of the. Well, I believe they did two nights at the hockey arena. I was at one of them. I think Mark. You had said Mark Brandison was at the other one.
No, I think he was at the same one as you.
Well, Groo, I did say in my notes, did you hear that rumor? Because that one doesn't ring a bell for me. I remember the rumors of Eddie in rehab, and I remember being like, wow, they're losing momentum, but I never read or heard that perhaps Eddie was in a bad state and had blows with Wolfgang, backstage.
I'm guessing because... what?
I said blows.
No, here's what I heard about that show, because I know... That was after I saw them on one of the early shows of the tour in Philadelphia.
Right.
And the reason that I went so early is because I did not think that the tour would last. I'm completely serious. So I made sure to get the closest. I wasn't going to go all the way to North Carolina, but I said, all right, I could go to Philly, and it was unbelievable. It was the loudest crowd I've ever heard in any concert or sporting event that I've ever been to, and the concert, the set list, everything was just incredible. I have to say. Then I was excited for you to go, and you and Mark both told me the same exact thing. How bad it was. The sound was off. It was just like Mark said. He and his kids had to leave halfway through. It was unlistenable. And you basically kind of said the same thing. And I'm looking at all of, like, the reviews of all the other concerts, and they're all given these stellar reviews. And then I look at some other reviews of the Florida one, and they all say the same thing that you guys said. And I'm guessing, and I didn't know that Wolfgang and Eddie got into an argument, but I'm guessing it's because of that. They are the musicians, and musicians get really pissed off when technical shit doesn't go right. And it sounds to me like that could have been connected to the fact that there was something off with that show.
Yeah, so at that show, David Lee Roth he was like cursing at the, he was kept on blaming, like the AC was blowing on him, and I remember I was sitting there going, like, really, David Lee? Come on. Because like his voice sounded like such crap. But, I mean, I remember that first Florida show that I saw, and I was so, I really had such anticipation for that show. I really Well, I really couldn't wait to see it, and I stayed for the whole show, but I was definitely disappointed.
Yeah, but like I said, it's unfortunate because that's not the only show I saw on that tour. I saw one at Madison Square Garden too, and it was just as great. And I really feel I was bummed that whatever was wrong with that Florida show, that you kind of got screwed. But it definitely sounds like that argument could have been based on that, the quality of the show.
I don't know if you ever heard Vince McMahon said David Lee Roth screwed Van Halen.
Dave screwed Dave.
Yeah, Groo. The tour ended June 2nd, 2008 at the Van Ardel Arena in Grand Rapids, Michigan. It was renamed Van Halen Arena for that final show of the tour. David Lee Roth during the show stated multiple times that this would not be their final show and that they would see everyone, quote, next time. According to the Van Halen news desk, Groo, the reunion tour, that 2007-2008 deal with David Lee Roth, was the highest grossing tour in the band's history, raking in almost $93 million. Nice haul for David Lee and the Van Halens. I'll throw it to my partner. I know you've mentioned it before, but we'll wrap up this first piece. Van Halen, David Lee, reunion tour. When you take a step back and look at it all these years later, what comes to your mind?
Well, first of all, you have to remember that the last time that these guys had gone on tour before 2007, tickets were like $20. Now they're like 150. So I don't know. I don't know if there's much credence to but they were packing arenas left and right. And I think about like what would have happened if that reunion in '96 went through. Would it have lasted? Would it have?
No.
Would have? So and then it probably
no.
Then it probably would have killed the band for good as far as David Lee Roth is concerned. So I guess 96 was probably a blessing in disguise, because as far as I'm concerned, what we got from 2007 to 2015, every single thing was more than we could have ever hoped that we would have gotten. Do you know what I mean? Like we never thought, like even when Best Of came out, I was like, all right, even though that they're not getting back together, 2 more songs with David Lee Roth and Van Halen are 2 more songs than we ever thought we'd ever get in our lifetime. So, so that's how I look at it. It's all great.
I don't know if I'd call it a blessing in disguise. I think in life a lot of it is timing, and I just don't think Eddie Van Halen was ready for David Lee Roth in '96. Now I think in 2007. I'm not even sure he was ready then, but I guess, begrudgingly he was ready to accept, quote-unquote, his bandmate for all of his faux pas, and perhaps the money was just too rich to turn away from. Because if you look at... Well, hold on, let me finish now, because I'm looking at my notes for the next leg of the tour, and if you read a lot about Eddie Van Halen's comments, and even David Lee to some extent, it's always, I'm not sure what he's up to. My phone's, all he's got to do is call. He doesn't even like rock and roll too much anymore. It just, I agree with you, and I don't want to belabor the point, but it just sounds like they never really connected, even on some middle ground kind of thing. It was always perhaps surface level and tenuous at best, and that's just my take on it.
And you're probably right, but at least that did not bleed onto the stage, because every time I saw them, whether it was on TV or live, it looked like they were all having the time of their life. And that's, in the end, that's really all that matters. And we got another album out of it, which I know we're going to talk about. So, as long as they were making quality music and entertaining the fans and making money, doing everything that a band is supposed to do. So if they're not talking off stage, as long as it doesn't translate onto the stage, so be it. It's fine. No need for them to even address it. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
Can you think of a band that didn't happen with, that you could tell while they were playing that things are not what what you'd like them to be?
Are you asking? I've never been to a concert. I've never been to a show, a live concert, where I noticed any. I
did
concerts
once.
I've been to.
I did once.
All right, I'll ask you. The concerts I've been to have been very professional. I mean, David Lee Roth at the Van Halen show was upset at like a stagehand for a position, perhaps of an AC fan. But I've never saw bandmates argue or any. No, I've never.
Right. No, the only time I've ever seen a band, I could tell that they weren't getting along while they were playing, was ironically Van Halen with Sammy Hagar in 2004 when I saw him in Anaheim. I could tell that they hated each other. Eddie and Sammy wouldn't even go near each other on the stage. It was so weird. That was an awful concert. Oh God, that was bad. But
was that where they opened with Jump?
They opened with Jump, yeah. Which could work if you did it right. I don't even remember. I'd have to look it up. Had to be. They might have closed with Panama, something like that. But it didn't even matter. You could just tell that they were that they were so out of sync. The music was fine, but it was. You could just tell it was not. This was not Van Halen. This was 4 guys playing music. And the only time Eddie actually did look happy that night was when Wolfgang came up and they played 1 or 2 songs. So but anyway, we're going backwards. But I'm just I think based on what you said, look, whatever their feelings are. But it did not come across on stage, and so a good time was had by all.
Well, let's get to some continued history with David Lee Roth. November 12th, I'll just hit you on a couple of quick things. November 12th, 2008, Eddie Van Halen is quoted on Guitar World's website saying, "I'll be making music till I die. I've done all kinds of stuff. More is coming. I can't tell you exactly when right now." Eddie Van Halen underwent surgery on his left hand in 2009 following some treatment for arthritis. August 2010, Groo. Warner Chappell Music extended its administration agreements with Van Halen. Under that agreement, Van Halen will work with Warner Chappell to administer the catalog of their works. And with that agreement, there was also a press release stating that the group, with David Lee Roth, was in the studio recording a new Van Halen album that was due for a release in 2011. Groo, were you excited when you heard the news of a new Van Halen album with David Lee Rothenstein?
Hell yeah. This was like what we'd been waiting for forever, of course.
Oh, hell yeah.
So were you. We were both excited. I remember we were talking about it. Yeah, this was because we knew, A, we were getting new music, and B, that they were going to tour behind it. So this was like everything we could possibly want. The only thing that was, I'll ask you, what did you feel about the omission of Michael Anthony at this point?
It bothered me then, and it still bothers me now. I guess I'm not sure. I'll tell you why. I think that Michael, listen, there have been bands we've gone to see, Bon Jovi, Richie Sambora. So people come and go. I guess I was, when I was pining for that original Core 4 reunion. And I think Michael Anthony, again, I agree with you. I don't know good bass playing from bad bass playing. However, I do know that his voice was part of those iconic high harmonies that were sort of a staple of Van Halen as well. And I wanted it. I felt like when I saw them live, I felt like Wolfgang and Eddie did a good enough job where I wasn't like, wow, that sounds so marketably different. But Michael Anthony wasn't on stage, and so if I enjoyed the show 100%, I was like at 99, 98. Like I guess I probably in my mind would have liked it a little bit more. Michael Anthony was there because I associate him so much with those high harmony vocals, choruses on all those great Van Halen songs.
Yeah, and he also has that. He also has a stage presence. Like that big Jack Daniels bass, like he's like,
oh come on, yeah.
What do you mean? That's cool. It's like that's cool. No,
it's so 80. It's so 80s.
I know, but I liked it. But I liked it. Him flying through the air, singing, strumming to Panama. It's great stuff. When he's in Hot for Teacher, when he's groping the teacher that's walking on the catwalk there.
Yeah, that video's aged so
yeah,
well.
That's aged beautifully. Yeah, but I agree.
I watched that video. I got 3 charges against me by the police.
You got flagged. You got flagged.
Yeah, lewd and lascivious conduct. I guess at the end of the day, I would have liked Michael Anthony. At the end of the day, it didn't happen. I'll take what I got, but probably would have loved it a little bit more if Michael Anthony was on there. Yeah. No disrespect to Wolfgang, who I believe in everything I've heard is that he's a quality player himself, but wasn't Michael Anthony.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay. So Van Halen enters Henson Studio C with producer of Bon Jovi fame John Shanks on February 17, 2011.
Isn't that the guy who did Bon Jovi? Yeah, we've spoken about him.
Bon Jovi, and I think he's been a touring member of Bon Jovi as well on the guitar. Yeah,
interesting.
Yeah. So, their official website, Van Halen, was updated on December 26, 2011, announcing tickets for the 2012 tour. On January 5th, 2012, Van Halen played an intimate club gig at New York City's Cafe Wa, which had received, I remember seeing that on YouTube. They looked really, really good there, received widespread praise. And of course, their upcoming album's first single, Tattoo, premiered on radio stations later on that week, which debuted at number 67 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart. Let's see here. Groo, before we dive into the entire album, A Different Truth, the Cafe Was stuff on YouTube, Tattoo, the early single release. Did you like the early indications of what you were getting from this Van Halen?
Very much. Actually, when they first released Tattoo, I didn't really like it. I think because it was kind of slower than it's not the first single I would have chosen from their big, reunion album. But that song grew on me, and it's actually now my favorite song on the album. But they also played that night at Cafe Wa. They played She's the Woman, Which now you gotta understand something. At the time, I didn't realize, not that it would have mattered, but I didn't realize that most of the songs on this album were what would you call it?
Well, I'll tell you what I would call it. Because Groo, you're talking about something that was perhaps I don't know if criticism is the right word, but basically what Andy's saying is most of the original songs on A Different Kind of Truth were demoed as tracks from the mid-1970s. Wolfgang's original intention with the album, he kind of spearheaded this, was to create a collection of previously released B-sides. It would have been a record of our more hardcore songs and none of the pop stuff. That was our initial plan, but the deeper we dug, the more we found. At the same time, I was writing new songs. Dave got excited about that. We all did. We ended up recording demos for 35 songs. Basically, what Andy's saying is a lot of the songs on A Different Kind of Truth were original B-side tracks from the 1970s. And Andy, you've talked about this on prior podcasts with artists who go back and mine their earlier stuff. I guess it bothered me maybe a little bit that it wasn't like sort of new level Van Halen stuff, but I'm kind of fine with it now. What do you think about like when artists go back into the day? Is that kind of cool, or is that maybe they're hitting a little bit dry on the creativity well?
Depends who it is. If Billy Joel were to do that tomorrow, I'd be like, yes, bring it on. If he were to go back into the studio and do some new recordings of stuff that he wrote back in the 70s that he didn't like then, but maybe he likes now. Bruce does it all the time. 3 of the songs that were on his most recent album, which to me is one of his best albums that he's done, in my opinion. 3 of them were songs that I'd heard before on bootlegs from like the early 70s, from his pre-E Street Band days that he recorded with the E Street Band and released as new songs. And he's done that many times over the years. For example, one of his most famous songs, Born in the USA, was originally an acoustic outtake from the Nebraska sessions. So this is not a new thing. I would have hoped that Van Halen getting back together would have come up with 12 or 10 or 12 brand new, fresh out of the oven songs, but at the same time, they sounded brand new. And, Van Halen was never about the content or the deepness of this or that. It was all about, is it fun? Is it exciting? And the songs were. And that's why I'm fine. That's why I'm fine with it. A band like Van Halen could get away with that. I'm not so sure a band like Bon Jovi could pull that off as well as I think Van Halen did, because it sounded new, and that's the most important part. And I really did enjoy the album. I still enjoy the album. I don't think there's anything on there that stands out like a jump or it's all like. It's an album of deep tracks, and we love deep tracks. So, I'm fine with it.
I think I have deep tracks favorited on my Sirius XM.
I have deep tracks in my shorts right now. I got to take care of that.
Excellent. Groo, on February 8th, 2012, Van Halen performed a Friends and Family dress rehearsal that was pretty big on YouTube as well at the Forum in Inglewood, California. That featured many of their classics as well as several new songs from A Different Kind of Truth. I'm not going to go over the track listing, Groo, but it was 13 songs, which is pretty deep for a Van Halen album. Actually, Van Halen's known to be, their songs are kind of lean. It went over 15 minutes. Groo, David Lee Roth described the album as a sort of collaboration with Van Halen's past. 7 of the album's tracks are based on material, as Groo said, from the past, from 1975 to 1977. The only songs, Groo, that I'm aware of on my notes that were completely brand new, that cannot be traced back to earlier sessions, were Chinatown and track 11, Stay Frosty.
Stay Frosty.
Which sounded like Ice Cream Man. So,
which I like that about it. I enjoy Stay Frosty.
David Lee Roth, Groo, did rewrite the lyrics for most of the tracks as he wanted to incorporate a point of view from his current personal life. He declared, "All music, man, is autobiographic, particularly when it's not meant to be. There is a body of new that always meets halfway there, that I think makes very colorful sense. And so I'm glad that David Lee Roth did, kind of rewrite the lyrics for some of the tracks. And
his voice sounded good. His voice sounded good on the album.
Yeah, Groo, let's take a look at the commercial reaction to Van Halen's A Different Kind of Truth. Let me just give you some statistics here. A Different Kind of Truth was number 2, its peak position on the Billboard Hot 200. So it peaked at number 2 in the United States. It was number 1 for U.S. Top Rock Album and number 1 on the U.S. Top Hard Rock Album. It peaked at number 6 in England on the UK album and number 3 in Canada. In terms of weeks on the U.S. Billboard 200, A Different Kind of Truth spent 71 weeks on the U.S. Billboard 200, so it definitely had some legs. All right, let's get to it, Groo. What was the critical response to A Different Kind of Truth? Rolling Stone gave it 3.25 stars, saying, "One break coming up." Van Halen, quote, "Heard you missed us. We're back." Album is not only the most long-awaited reunion joint in the history of reunion joints, it is, against all reasonable expectations, a real Van Halen album. It's sonically closer to 1984 than to 5150, but it's closer to 1980s Women and Children First than to either No Synth Glop, No Ballads. Spin Magazine Groo was mixed on it, saying it's not perfect, it's too long by a third. David Lee Roth often sounds like a 2 a.m. drunk doing David Lee Roth at karaoke.
Sounds good to me.
But the album clearly aspires to be both part of Van Halen canon, interesting point, and if need be, served as an entry point. Advanced Buzz noted that the track list was plundered from the band's much bootlegged 1976 Gene Simmons produced Van Halen Zero demo, as if that spoke to some lack of ambition, but this is actually the mission statement to redeem the band and its brand after decades of neglect and bad hoodoo. Pitting themselves against a younger, hungrier selves seems far more inspired than lazy.
I like that.
Finally, Groo, Ultimate Classic Rock was very positive on the album, noting after more than 2 decades apart, the Van Halen brothers and original lead singer David Lee Roth have turned in a thrilling and terrific new album, A Different Kind of Truth, which proves that their chemistry together remains a special and magical thing. Well, Groo, our chemistry may be crap, but what are your final thoughts? What are your final thoughts on the final Van Halen album of all time, of course, led by David Lee Roth, A Different Kind of Truth? Groo, the floor is yours.
I would give it a 3.5 out of 4. I would put it up. I wouldn't say. I would say it's probably. It's tough for me to say it's the weakest David Lee Roth Van Halen album, because every one of their albums is, to me, a 4-star. Like Van Halen 2, Women and Children First, even Diver Down, 1984. All they're incredible albums. They're all classic albums. Different Kind of Truth is not a classic album, but it's still a great album. I love listening to it. It's still in rotation, and it's like I said. I love that guy. The last review or the previous review, when they said they went back into their archives to bring these songs out as sort of a reaffirmation instead of being lazy. I really like that take on it. And one thing that this is the only area where I think Sammy Hagar sounded a little petty, because he in every comment that he made about this album, he couldn't not say that, well, it's all stuff that they did back in the 70s and they're just they're putting it through the car wash and I'm like, every band does that. And I had to I was in the discussion thing with somebody, and I had to remind them that one of Van Halen's biggest hits with Sammy was the song Right Now, which you love, which is a great song. That song was itself a demo that was taken and put on their album. It was a demo from several years earlier that was featured in a movie called The Wildlife with Chris Penn, like a early 80s teen sex comedy. And it was Eddie and Alex had actually scored the movie, and the music from Right Now is in that score. So it's kind of hypocritical, and it's the only time Sammy has sounded a little bitter and petty about it. So that was his thing. But I think it's right up there with all the rest of them, just a tiny little notch below, because it is an album of deep cuts, and there's nothing that really jumps out, no pun intended, but that's perfectly fine. So 3.5 out of 4. What about you?
Yeah, I'll give it 3 stars. I would say, there's a couple of standout tracks. Obviously, I like Tattoo, She's the Woman. I liked The Trouble with The Trouble with Never was a fun song, and Stay Frosty. It satisfied my my need for David Lee Roth Van Halen. I think it's somewhat not legitimized is the right. It was a nice cap on this run with David Lee Roth. To get new material is nice.
If it's not Peter Luger, it's Steak and Shake.
I love Steak and Shake.
Exactly. So all right, good. I'm glad you feel that way.
Yeah, Groo, there was more coming in February 2015. Van Halen fan site, the Van Halen News Desk announced that Van Halen will be releasing their first ever live album with original vocalist David Lee Roth. Tokyo Dome, live in concert, was released on March 31st, 2015. The album featured performances from their June 23rd, 2013 performance at the Tokyo Dome. There was some other stuff. When they talked about on the press release for the album, Eddie was quoted as saying, "I'd love to make another studio record. Depends on everybody's timing. I don't know what David Lee Roth is up to now. I don't know if he's living in New York or Japan or wherever it is." Groo, listen, no need to go in depth on the Van Halen live Tokyo Dome. Generally speaking, the live album was noted as the first and only one with David Lee Roth. An extensive, sort of deep cut set list, but criticized roundly for Roth's very raw and sometimes out-of-key vocals. Groo, what say you on Van Halen live at the Tokyo Dome?
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it's still fun to listen to because it is the only, official documentation of them live together in their later days. But yeah, you could tell this is where his voice is really starting to travel to places that you don't want it to go. But we sort of accept that because, like you said, as a front man, he's still top tier, never a good vocalist. So when you are listening to it, you don't get that visual, so it's not that easy to listen to. But I almost wish they would have released maybe a DVD of the thing so we can get that part of it, because without that it kind of doesn't work as well. But it is nice to hear a good quality recording of it, though.
Yeah, I wonder if this was some kind of contractual thing, because it was released. It was kind of a little fanfare. There was nothing sort of additional with it. I hear you. Comparative to, let's say, like a Phil Collins who's long in the tooth. I don't know. David Lee's, when his vocals are off, it's just he's off pitch. Yeah. He's off key. He's out of breath. It's just, it's pretty bad, dude. It's pretty bad,
and it's tough to. And like I said, it's tough to listen to. But if you're seeing it, like for example, when they did the stuff on Jimmy Kimmel, or when they did the performance on Ellen DeGeneres' show, they did Jump. And then
that was not bad. The Ellen performance is good.
But if you listen to it without watching it, the vocals do sound like crap. But if you're watching it, it's just it kind of distracts you because you're watching the mighty Van Halen, and it's a little bit different.
I like the Tokyo Dome just because you're getting some really great classic, album cuts. Somebody Get Me a Doctor, Chinatown, Mean Streets. These are some really, I think of like gritty New York 70s.
Well, they're songs we never thought we'd ever hear live again. So So it's like I said, it's all gravy. As you know, whether it's good or bad, it's all anything at that point we would accept. You know what I mean?
Well, Groo, really, the Van Halen story sort of ends here. After a lot of stop-start rumors in the press, Van Halen has formally disbanded after Eddie Van Halen's death from cancer on October 6, 2020. As we stated earlier, on October 1st, 2021, David Lee Roth announced again that he will do 5 concerts in Las Vegas later on, I think around New Year's Eve. So that really takes us up to snuff on Van Halen and the David Lee Roth run. I don't know. You want to give us some posthumous comments to kind of wrap it up? I mean, it kind of feels sort of incomplete. I feel like I would have liked to have gotten that kitchen sink or maybe another mini run, even with just David Lee Roth. But we never got it, and that's just life, you know.
But what we did get was way more than we ever thought we'd get. Even those little things, those little black and white videos that they did. I think it was just Eddie, Alex, and Dave. They played the acoustic. You Really Got Me. They did Panama. They did all these little things, which to me, all these little nuggets of things with Dave and Eddie after all these years. So I can see how it feels. The only reason it feels a little incomplete is the Michael Anthony factor. If Michael Anthony was part of this whole thing, you could say that the band came full circle. They came back to their roots. They did it. They put out a new album. They toured 3 times with David Lee Roth, which I think is the same amount as they toured with Sammy Hagar. And they put out a live album. They did everything a band is supposed to do. And, they went out when maybe a little bit past their prime, but they were still packing houses. And unfortunately, it was because of the death of the founder of the band that the band couldn't continue. So, yeah, the incomplete feeling is there, but I think it's due to the fact that they never got to do the whole thing, do that kitchen sink thing, do the thing with Michael Anthony. But other than that, everything we got was terrific, I think.
Let's end on this note, because it is also about David Lee Roth. Yeah. When you take a step back and look at his run with Van Halen, his solo stuff, which was kind of mixed, he did a couple of real wacky solo kind of things, banjo albums, all sorts of crazy stuff, and then that final Van Halen run, where do you see sort of David Lee Roth in the universe of rock and roll frontmen and vocalists? How do you put a cap on his run?
Well, frontman and vocalist are 2 different things.
All right, well,
but I would put him in the top 5 band frontmen of all time. He created a style of performing that is impossible to replicate in many ways. He is so incredibly unique. His voice is very unique, and I think that he deserves, and a lot of people will probably argue this with me, but I do believe he should go into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a solo artist. And I think Sammy Hagar should too.
Sammy Hagar for sure.
Yes, and I do. David Lee Roth. Those first few albums, Eat 'Em and Smile was a good album. Skyscraper was good, and he had one more which I think was good, and then they started to really go south. The Little Ain't Enough, that was good.
That's a good song.
But then came like Your Filthy Little Mouth, and then the DLR band, and that's where it kind of tapered off. But remember after he left Van Halen the first time, he was packing houses. Like he toured and he was selling out. Like he was a hot act for a while until his voice really started to go, which was in the early 90s, I would say. I remember hearing him on Howard Stern. He played it. You'll remember this. He played at one of the funerals that they did.
He did Panama and Chump.
Yeah, and you could tell that his voice wasn't what it used to be, and that was in the early 90s. But the stuff that he did post Van Halen You know, and plus I give him a lot of credit for trying different things. He did that country thing, which was a train wreck, but he had the balls to try it. Like he wasn't afraid to do anything. He wasn't afraid to go out and do the most banal shit and make it seem like it was the greatest thing ever. Like I there's something I respect about that. You know, I don't know.
So I think that he is probably, I'll put him maybe in the top 3 or 2 rock frontmen of all time. When I think of 80s level David Lee Roth, growing up, 14 years old, looking at this guy, he's got the long blonde hair, he's ripped, he's doing karate style moves on the stage, flips, backflips. I mean, the guy was like everything you would like, cool, you aspire to be when you grow up. In terms of, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I'm not going to say yes. I'm not going to say no. I think he's hurt by a couple of things. I think the rock critic, what's the word I'm looking for here? But I think they would thumb their nose. I think his solo stuff was kind of put in either 2 categories: hair metalish or sort of Broadway theatrical kind of pap, and I think that's kind of where his solo stuff exists. I wouldn't have a problem with him going in the.
Yeah, I don't think it'll happen. I don't think it'll happen, but
I just don't think he has the cultural attaché. And I think Sammy Hagar's had a very solid sort of solo career that you can make a case for it. But I don't know. I don't know about David Lee. Don't know.
There's an interesting thing though, and I've told you this. I told you I saw Van Halen with Sammy Hagar in 2004 in Anaheim, and it was god awful. It was god awful. Then the very next night, I went to somebody had their own, threw a birthday party for themselves, and they hired a Van Halen cover band to play in their backyard called the Atomic Punks, which and they only play Roth era stuff, and they literally dress like the band and look like the band. They got the Frankenstein guitar, and they were amazing. So maybe it's just got to do with I just wanted to hear those songs live because I never got a chance to. Because right when I was becoming a fan, the band, Dave left, so I never really got to hear those songs live. So I'm just glad we did.
Yeah, I actually went and saw at Casino, Arizona, Van Halen.
Really?
Which was another David Lee. Yeah, David.
How
Lee
were
Roth,
they?
I posted them. They were great. I put it on my Facebook. Marie and I went, and it was like $12.
Cover bands are fun. Cover bands are fun.
Yeah. I think we all could agree on this, Andrew. Get your ass out the door, okay?
Well, that's a Sammy Hagar thing. Get your ass out of the door!
Well, that's a wrap on David Lee Roth, A Different Kind of Truth. Groo, let's get to it. It's 5 things we are talking about this week. It's nothing worthwhile, the week that was. Oh, I'm on. Great. I just lost my spot. The week that was is brought to you by New You Life Center. Begin a new you. Check out all their medical weight loss programs, hormone optimization, the whole deal. Give them a call at 602-274-0068. Tell them Moody Groo sent you and receive a big 15% off your first service. Thank you to New You Life Center. Groo, last Monday, it's a wrap for Sly Stallone. Expendables 4 is shooting right now, but judging by a recent Instagram post by Sylvester Stallone, it seems that we have seen the last of one particular character, and it's a pivotal one at that. Barney Ross, the lead Expendables character played by the cinematic legend Sylvester Stallone, looks to be leaving the franchise. It would seem that he has decided to call his time with this franchise quits. Stallone has penned and directed many franchise films, and Stallone being attached to 3 of the largest grossing franchises of all time, the most successful being the Rocky franchise and, of course, the Rambo franchise. It was in 2010, however, shortly after he revived both the Rocky and Rambo franchises during the 2000s, he would unearth yet another blockbuster hit. The Expendables films garnered a lot of attention, Andrew, as the years went on. Some of it negative, a lot of it positive, but it made a lot of money for sure. This cannot be denied. Hence the reasons for the 4th installment. Stallone is involved, yes, but according to his Instagram post, he's leaving the way before many of the other castmates are set to leave. They're still filming. Jason Statham, who plays Lee Christmas, I love that character, in the movie, looks to be the new leader, perhaps, of the Expendables along the way. Stallone's Barney Ross character is leaving for whatever reason. Stallone says that he is, quote, ready to pass the baton to Jason and his capable hands. If the fourth Expendables film does well, it may be entering yet into another phase of sequels that Groo Stallone may not be part of. Sly has talked about yet another Rocky film. I'm sorry, but oy vey. And despite saying that he is done with Rambo, we may be ready to get another one as well.
No way.
Let's say he has the movie Samaritan slated to come out, and Expendables 4 is scheduled to be released in 2022, quoting Collider.com. Groo, Stallone may be saying goodbye to the Expendables and Barney Ross. What say ye?
What say ye? Well, it's obvious that I guess they're killing off the character. I like the Expendables movies. I think the second one is my favorite. The first one was really good. The second one was great. The third one was okay. Without Stallone, I think it's a straight-to-video-on-demand franchise. I think that I don't think Jason Statham is on the level of any of those other people to carry a franchise that was once carried by arguably the biggest movie star to ever live. So I don't see it really going much past this fourth movie, and I'm a little disappointed that he would call it quits. Why not keep going? Don't make them anymore. I don't want to like I wouldn't want to see Rambo without Stallone, so I don't want to see the Expendables without Stallone. It's Stallone.
Yeah, he was doing those. What's the movie? He made a couple straight-to-video releases with
Escape Plan.
Yeah,
he was hardly in them. He was hardly in them, so they're uninteresting.
All right, well, hey, thank you.
But I'll see the Expendables with him in it. But once he's out of the movie, I'll leave. I guess I don't know. Who else is in it though?
Tissue?
I don't think Schwarzenegger's in this one.
No, Jason Statham and Stason Jatham.
Stason Jatham. He's good. He's really good.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what Statham? He plays the same kind of character. He always plays that British kind of good thug who's always a drunk. Yet he takes off his shirt. He's ripped to shreds. Yeah. He's like, I'm going to drink. And I'm like,
he should do some comedies. I feel like he could be funny. But I would like to see I love Stallone. I love Rocky and Rambo. I hope the hell you're wrong about those franchises should be done, and that might surprise you to hear me say that, but they really he should stop those. I would love it if he would do more of what he's doing with this Rocky 4 thing. Apparently this Rocky 4 thing that's coming out is a whole new kind of experience, and I'm really excited for it. And if it's
I'm calling bullshit on that.
Are you really? Did you see?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think you're going to get some, perhaps, for a hardcore fan, you're going to get some cool deleted scenes, or you're going to get some cool cuts woven into the movie. But I would imagine when you leave the theater, my only take on it's going to be the same feeling as when you left Rocky 4. Now you're a different age and a different experience, but I've watched these directors' cuts enough, and I understand they're making this a big deal, and it's it's a lot of cuts and a lot of edits, and it's perhaps being touted as a somewhat of a brand new film. I saw the trailer.
It's like 40 minutes
and
longer.
I'm still going to call. Well, all right, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'll be wrong.
No,
and if I'm wrong, I will come on here and gladly admit so. But I've seen the Aliens director's cut, and it's cool. And it's another 18 minutes, but at the end of the day, aren't most of these directors' cuts
simply just inserting stuff that has been sitting in the vault for years. It's not,
Well, but what is this?
I've already seen clips that are.
But what was this though? Isn't this just stuff that was sitting in the vault that wasn't part of the movie?
When I read about it, I was like, that's probably what this is. But he's been very transparent about the process, and he has put on. No, seriously, he's put on social media a lot of him in the editing room going through these things, and he's literally re-choreographing the fight. He's making the Apollo fight more of a fight rather than just a bludgeoning. There are a whole bunch of different takes of like I've seen Rocky IV so many times I could quote it from beginning to end, and I can see that he's making different choices with the kinds of scenes that are in there, and I can tell that this seems to be more than just your typical director's cut. We might be wrong. We'll find out on November 11th. And if it's what I think it could be, I'd like to see more of those, because I like it when people I like it when people go back into something they haven't looked at and do it from today's lens, And so it's interesting. I will
watch it with an open mind and an open heart, but I'm going to stick with my original premise. Yeah. I'm curious. Ryan, hit us up on Facebook on our webpage and let us know if you agree closer with Andy or agree closer with Evan, because I think it's. I mean, how much more you're going to re-edit the fight with Apollo? It's going to look either herky-jerky on film.
Maybe. All I know is what I have seen. Everything that I have seen that I haven't seen before, I've been impressed and fascinated by. And I can't wait to see more of it. So,
I mean, what do you want me to say? When I got Billy Joel, "My Lives," these rhinestone days sound like I love these days.
That was a beautiful song. It's kind of the same thing in a way. It's kind of the same.
Yeah.
There's a new 12-minute version of The Entertainer we're going to hear.
I am a big Sly fan, so I will give it a chance. But I think it's going to be just a longer. All right, I'll keep my mouth shut.
No, maybe.
Well, let's get to it. Groo, let's get physical. Olivia Newton-John's dance pop anthem "Physical" turned 40 years of age this year.
Oh my God!
And it's still as iconic as ever. Olivia Newton-John Groo is now 73 years old.
She's still hot.
She looked back.
Am I allowed to say that?
On your computer while
can
I please finish my little opening?
Yeah, I'm going to look.
Put her up on your computer.
I'm going to.
Olivia looked back on her song's legacy and revealed that the lyrics may have indeed been a bit too raunchy at the time of its release. They call it reinventing yourself, the Grease actress told Fox News about how fans looked at her differently following the release of the single. "I wasn't doing it on purpose. It was just the song that I was attracted to, and the album. Olivia Newton-John didn't immediately get that the song was salacious. I didn't think I was really aware of how raunchy it was when I was recording it until afterwards, and that's when I freaked out." Let's see here. "Physical" was originally written by Steve Kittner and Terry Shattuck for British rocker Rod Stewart, of all things, Groo. And then it was later offered to Tina Turner. Newton-John, however, was the lucky winner who scored the tune in the end. A deluxe edition of "Physical" will drop on Friday, October 22nd. Olivia Newton-John is also celebrating the record's 40th anniversary by partnering with Crunch Fitness for a Guinness World Record attempt to partake in the TikTok Physical Challenge, whatever that may be. But it is a charity event for breast cancer research. The goal of the project is to set a world record for the number of people doing leg lifts from the Physical musical video. I don't know, whatever you want to say, Groo. Physical is actually 40 years old. I thought it caught my eye. Maybe it was a slow week. What do you think?
Forgetting about that, I'm looking at pictures of her. She's still cute. She's she's older. I would say she looks in around her mid-50s, but she's adorable.
Have you ever heard the story that her boyfriend disappeared?
Yes. Whatever happened with that?
I don't know. I think he was a British financier, and he had some kind of sketchy background. The guy just disappeared, and they don't know if he's
found him
dead, and they if he's living on some remote island somewhere. But
I don't know.
That's about the only thing I've heard of. Besides, I know she had a pretty high-level battle with cancer.
Yeah.
That's about the only thing I've heard about her.
Was the sex with her that bad that you have to run away and buy an island? I mean, come on. But no, she
looks good.
She does, and she's a huge talent. Always will be down in history.
Really? Come on. Are you saying that to be polite?
She's got a
You think Olivia Newton-John?
What?
No, you think of her. I didn't know you felt that way. I mean,
she's got a great voice, great dancer, she's very talented. Is she? Is she gonna ever? Has she ever, or would she ever sell out stadiums? No, but she's like a Linda Ronstadt to me. Not quite as big as Linda Ronstadt was, but she had Grease. She did movies. She did albums. I would call her a legend. I absolutely would. Olivia Newton-John.
According to Billy Joel, Linda Ronstadt and what other singer persuaded him to keep Just the Way You Are on The Stranger?
Olivia Newton-John? Let me guess. Wait, let me try and guess. Is it a female?
I just said it. Did you?
I didn't hear you.
Yeah, it's female.
Female.
Oh, good.
All right, so Linda Ronstadt. I'm going to go out on a limb and say Carole King.
Phoebe Snow.
I would never have known that. She passed away recently, I think.
Yeah. Anyway.
Jesus Christ.
Groo, it happened yet again, and we've had some more news since it went down. On Wednesday, Netflix finally made a statement about the ongoing transphobia controversy surrounding a recent Dave Chappelle comedy special. After supportive statements on Chappelle's behalf from Netflix CEO Ted Sarandos, the company has now said that they support the cause. Trans Netflix employees organized a walkout on October 20th to protest the company's reaction to the controversial content. According to Deadline, the group will present firm tasks for the company to save face. Netflix reacted with their own statement, quote, saying, "We value our trans colleagues and allies and understand the deep hurt that has been caused. We respect the decision of any employee who chooses to walk out and recognize that we have much more work to do within Netflix and our content." The company has noted that they need to start doing more, but what about Ted Sarandos himself? Ted Sarandos' group became an ire of fans online who felt his statements that were supportive of Dave Chappelle's, comedy were tone deaf. Sarandos issued his own statement. The executive expressed regret at the way he tried to rationalize the situation. Quote, "I screwed up the internal communication, and I just don't mean that mechanically. I feel that I should have made sure to recognize that a group of our employees were hurting very badly from this decision. I should have recognized up front before going into a rationalization of anything, the pain that they were going through. I say that because I respect them deeply. I love their contribution that they have made at Netflix. They were hurting, and I should have recognized that first." Recently, Groo celebrities such as Joe Rogan and Andrew Yang have come to Chappelle's defense. Such celebrity efforts have thus proven ineffective against the backlash. Groo, I did see the special, the Dave Chappelle special, Closer. I don't know if you've seen it, but Groo, your thoughts on this Netflix? Now Netflix, it's their turn to deal with it. Backlash on creative content and comedy.
All right. First of all, I want to meet one of these people who says they are hurt, and I want to ask them point blank, what exactly hurt you? Because I've seen the special twice now, and there is not 1 ounce of transphobia in there. He is having a discussion, a very funny one, a very frank one, but a very truthful one about the differences between people in this country. Dave Chappelle, I didn't like him earlier in his career. I think post-meltdown, post-like Chappelle's show, walking away, that whole thing, he is now the Richard Pryor of our, or could be anyway, the way he presents his comedy. He is talking about it because it's important to address what's going on. There is nothing. What is transphobic? Transphobic is fear of trans. Okay? Phobia is fear. There is nothing in there that is a fear of anything. it's a dialogue, it's a conversation, and he even says that in the special. You said you saw it when he said,
I did.
When he said, I'm not saying, he's like, I am on your side. I'm just saying I disagree with the way you are handling it, the things you are saying. It's not helping your cause. That's what he was saying. He was talking about the whole Me Too movement, and he was talking about all that. He's saying, I support you 100%, but you're not going to get anything done the way you're doing it. That was his message. That's not transphobic. That's trying to help. So all this nonsense going back and forth. So I want to know, and he said something that was very interesting as part of this backlash thing. He's like, I'll meet with whoever wants to meet with me, but I have one condition. You have to have seen the entire show. Because I get the feeling that a lot of these people who are complaining about it didn't actually see it. Because if they did, they would have in my opinion, they'd have nothing to complain about. Do you agree?
I did see the special, Closer. Mm-hmm. Comparative to his other comedy specials, I actually think it was one of the weaker ones because it's almost like a political discourse, and I wanted maybe a little bit more comedy elements. It's funny. I enjoy Dave Chappelle, and I've enjoyed him. I enjoyed his show on Comedy Central, and I've enjoyed his post-meltdown work as well. No, of course not. I mean, I think comedy does not relate to hate in any avenue. I've seen comedians, they've made fun of everybody, Jewish people, and I've never taken offense to it. It's comedy is comedy.
But he wasn't even making fun of them, though. Like, it wasn't. He
what he was doing. But he was talking about he had a relationship with a trans comic or a trans. But the bottom line is this. Ted Sarandos, I'm disappointed in him because his initial statements were, our creative content is our creative content, and I'm not pulling anything that I feel has not broached any kind of line. And I believe that's, somebody's got to take a stand against these social media mobs, sort of, mob justice. And I agree with them. No, we don't think it's offensive. We don't think it's crossed any line. We're keeping it on our platform. And then, of course, a week later, 3 or 4 days later, he's got to come out with, the whole thing. And, people walking out on the job, I just don't see it. The only thing I'll say is, I'm not trans, so I don't know their experience, but Lord, walking out on the job, you would have thought that this guy, for 120 minutes, just, made the most horrific statements about, trans people. And I agree with you. I don't see it. I think it's really much to do really about nothing. And I support comedians, and I support Dave Chappelle's right to be funny.
Yeah,
and,
this was not
comedy can be edgy at times.
You know what's phobic? You know what's phobic? What Michael Richards did. What Michael Richards did in the name of comedy. That's phobic, yes. And he got what he should have gotten. Okay, there's a huge difference. But Chappelle, like I actually thought the special was really funny. But he made a good point that sort of plays to what you and I can't put ourselves in the situation because we're not trans. We're not, at least as far as I know. We're not. We're not. So we can't.
Oh, you so funny.
We can't really sympathize or empathize with them. But Chappelle himself made an interesting point. He says, "I'm black. I know what oppression is. I know what it is to be, looked at in a different way." And, so if anyone can sympathize with a group of minorities, it's him. So all of this, I agree with you. It's much ado about nothing. And back to what was said in the special, it's only going to add to the problem. If we can't have discussions about these things without somebody, saying it's offensive or whatever, then we're doomed.
Yeah, I mean, you got to look at this in an avenue as art, and art can be offensive. I don't think it was here, but art
it wasn't.
It's got to be protected. It's got to be protected. It's got, and we're getting into a very kind of slippery slope where anytime somebody speaks, somebody this, somebody that, artwork, whatever it is, and somebody's offended, they want to completely shut it down, and that's not a good spot. That's not a good spot. Now, the only thing I'll disagree with you is this. I don't think we can sympathize, but I think if you're a human being, you can always empathize. And I think
that's true.
Despite our upbringing, our parents taught us to be caring, loving members of the human race.
That's why I want to hear from them specifically what it is. If you want to make an argument, make the argument. Tell me what it is, because that's one thing that I haven't heard in any of these statements. Specifically, what did he say? And if there's more than one thing, say it. What is it that you are reacting to? Because I can't figure it out.
So I believe this morning, I like to get up and I'll read the news and drink my coffee before I try to motivate myself for my old man workout. And I think that 2 employees filed a class action lawsuit against Netflix for, I don't know, workplace. I'm just like, wow, I just cannot. I can't fathom it. And that's all I'll say about it. I don't want to go too far into it, but I just can't believe it. I really can't believe it.
I am glad that Netflix is. I would have a year ago. I would have expected them to pull off the special immediately, but it's still up there, and I'm glad it is. It has nothing to do with any loyalty to Chappelle. It's got to do with what's right and what's wrong, and I think this is wrong.
Groo, we'll move on. Sad news last Friday as actor Peter Scolari died at the age of 66 after a 2-year battle with cancer. Scolari starred alongside legendary actor and lifelong friend Tom Hanks in the 1980s ABC sitcom Bosom Buddies, which was one of his early television roles. Scolari obviously didn't have the career that Tom Hanks did, but he had a 40-plus year career in Hollywood, Groo, starring in iconic films and shows such as Fosse Verdon, Madoff, The Good Fight. I remember him in Murphy Brown, The West Wing, ER, Gotham, Law and Order SVU, and Ally McBeal.
Newhart,
one of his most recent parts was a recurring role as Bishop Thomas Marks in the CBS series Evil. I've seen promotion for it. I've never seen the series. For his role as producer Michael Harris on Bob Newhart's long-running 1980s comedy Newhart, Scolari scored 3 Emmy nominations for that role in Newhart. For his portrayal of the father of Lena Dunham's character on the HBO series Girls, he won an Emmy Award for Outstanding Guest Actor in a Comedy Series. He also made memorable cameo appearances in Hanks' films The Polar Express and 1996's That Thing You Do. I thought it was a pretty good movie.
Yeah.
Peter Scolari was married 4 times. That's a wow. And is survived by his 4th wife, Tracy Shane, and his children. Groo, sad news. Peter Scolari dead at the age of 66.
Yeah, he's one of those guys who nobody knows his name, but everybody knows his face. Great character actor. Bosom Buddies, definitely a great show, and he and Hanks had great chemistry, and like you said, Hanks became Hanks, but Scolari had it. You look at his IMDb, it's like 200 items long. Man, that's a good career. And he was always around. Best to his family, his many ex-wives, and his kids. And yeah, it's a shame. Cancer is just, this shit is just not going anywhere. It's unreal.
It's funny. As I'm listening to you speak, I'm thinking Bosom Buddies wouldn't even be made today. That would be considered.
No way. Well, look at. If you go through, I mean, look, that's a whole other episode of our show.
All right, I got you. All right, let's.
No, but I mean, like, if you think of what shows could Different Strokes be made today? Could All in the Family be made today? Good Times?
No,
of course not. So it's like, wow, what's that? I mean,
as my mom would say, no. Mom, can I go out with group? No.
It's funny.
Can we go to the no?
It's funny.
I want to go to the mall. No.
We're supposed to be moving in the opposite direction, aren't we? Aren't we supposed to be? Aren't we supposed to be becoming more accepting of things instead of less accepting. I don't know what's going on.
Well, you hit a good point. That I'll just say you've hit a good point. That's where we're supposed to be moving to, yet it feels we're even more restrictive.
Yeah.
So anyway, Groo, this is terrible news. On Friday,
man, Friday sucked.
Yeah, a bullet that Alec Baldwin fired from a prop gun first struck director of photography Highland Hutchins, that exited her body and hit film director Joel Souza's clavicle on the set of the upcoming film Rust. Groo, the movie set was quickly locked down as Hutchins and Souza were rushed to the local hospital via helicopter. Unfortunately, Hutchins died while being transported. The 30 rock star went to the hospital to check on the condition of the filmmakers and learned that he had killed Hutchins, according to local news outlets. He had, quote, he had no idea how badly they were hurt or Highlander was dead, a witness said. After accidentally discharging the gun, 63-year-old Alec Baldwin demanded to know why he'd been handed a loaded weapon, according to the website showbiz411.com. Quote, in all my years, I've never been handed a hot gun. That's what he was quoted as saying, according to a witness. The $6 million budget movie had meetings about safety, the source said. Quote, they had safety meetings every day, but it was a Tier 1 movie, so they probably didn't have more than one prop person, the source said. Groo, the article goes on to say that Hollywood sources say production of the film has been halted in the wake of the shooting, according to the news outlet. Not too much. Obviously, more stuff has come out since I got the initial notes. A terrible accident with terrible news. Groo, you've been on some Hollywood movie sets. Anything to add on? It's terrible news.
Yeah,
terrible
it's a terrible thing to happen. Should never have happened. One of the things that's adding to it is that they are really dragging Baldwin into a place where he doesn't belong. Like you said, I've been on movie sets, and the actor is the last one who's responsible for what's in these guns. Literally, they get handed the gun seconds before before they yell action, because the actor is literally not even supposed to mess with it. They're supposed to do exactly what they're told. The prop master hands them the gun. You say, all you got to do, point that way, twice, boom, cut. That's what it is. So anybody who's saying that Baldwin should have checked to make sure that there were no bullets in there, number one, you can't tell the difference. Unless you're an expert, you can't tell the difference between a real bullet and a blank. Okay? And number two, the actor never opens the gun because, like Baldwin said, they're never handed hot weapons. So Somebody put a bullet in this gun. The actor is not the one. It's actually against union rules for the actor to only someone from the prop master's union is supposed to handle the gun in that way. So they're really compounding the tragedy of it by like I saw a headline in some paper the other day. It was like director who Baldwin shot. You know, it's like now you're just looking for headlines and trying to be a dick about it. Baldwin didn't shoot anybody. Okay, Baldwin was doing his job. Somebody else didn't do theirs, and that's why somebody's dead. And it's so unfortunate.
From what I read, though, that this set was very
that's true too
with the rules. And there's somebody called an armorer, and she was very unexperienced. I think she was in her 20s. Was supposed to handle the weapons, and apparently they may have been shooting, for fun offset the night before.
Yes, that is not Alec Baldwin's responsibility.
I'm not. I listen. It's a terrible thing. Yes. Nobody should have to go through that. I'm not sure if you ever. I'm not sure if you ever really come back from that.
No,
if you're a human being. I mean,
no, you don't. His life and career are changed forever anyway, because he was involved in somebody's death. That alone is punishment enough, especially if it wasn't even his responsibility.
God, I'm so depressed now. But Eddie Van Halen, Transphobia.
Yeah.
Peter Sclerari, Alec Baldwin.
Well, there's one thing yes, I do. Is
there anything to cheer me up on my birthday? Come on.
Yes, I do. I have a present for you, and together we're going to turn things around, Evan Moody. And I'm going to turn your frown upside down. I'm going to turn your frown upside down because today you, my 51-year-old friend,
you son of a bitch,
are going to play the Covers Game.
Yeah!
Yes, indeed. The Covers Game is brought to you by New You Life Center. Go down and tell them that Moody and Groo sent you. Get 15% off. Ask for Marie. She'll take good care of you and their wonderfully trained staff. New You Life Centers of Phoenix, Arizona. Thank you, New You. So, Evan.
Wow, very professional.
We have, we are big fans of Bruce Springsteen, Phil Collins, Van Halen. Okay, so I am giving you 3 covers today, one from each of those artists, and you, my friend, are going to tell me who sang the original.
Oh wait, hold on. So you said Van Halen, Bruce, and Phil.
One from Van Halen, one from Bruce, and one from Phil.
Go ahead. Okay, I got you.
So this being your birthday, you tell me which one you want first.
Let's go with Van Halen first.
Okay, Van Halen. On Van Halen's album Diver Down, Evan, they did a cover called Where Have All the Good Times Gone? Can you tell me and our audience who sang and performed the original version of Where Have All the Good Times Gone?
That's a real tough one, and this is probably wrong, and it's a very obvious one because of the past affiliation, but the Kinks?
Evan, the song itself was written by Ray Davies. And the original version, and the original version was performed, however, by the Kinks. You are correct. Very good. Yes. 1 for 1. Wherever all the good times got, so because I was originally going to go with You Really Got Me, but that's actually that's too easy. That's the Kinks also, but that's too easy. But yeah, so good job. 1 for 1. So you want to go Collins next?
Yeah, let's go second round Collins for Jack.
All right. This should be easy. All right. So Phil Collins had a big hit. I believe it was the part of the soundtrack for the film Buster, in which Phil Collins was the lead actor in. He did a couple of covers on that album, one of which was called You Can't Hurry Love, Evan. Can you tell me who sang the original version of You Can't Hurry Love?
Well, first of all, Bill, I'd like to... I believe that version, You Can't Hurry Love, was on his second solo album, Hello, I Must Be Going.
Oh, so it was not... So it wasn't part of Buster. Okay.
No, and I believe I'm going to go with the Supremes.
The Supremes is correct, Evan. 2 for 2. My goodness gracious.
Damn. Okay.
And finally, Evan, in the early 80s...
Well, here's the thing. I feel like I'm going to mess this one up because Bruce is probably a deep cut. Or
I don't think
like
you
that.
will.
Go ahead.
I don't think you will. I think you'll get this one. In and around 1980, on his River tour... Bruce Springsteen took a song that was not known for its rock and roll roots and turned it into what would essentially become a Bruce Springsteen song. What many people don't know is that he did not write this one. The name of the song, Evan, is Trapped. Can you tell me who sang the original version of Trapped?
So I believe it's a reggae artist, and I don't think it's Marley. I think it's somebody... Jimmy Cliff?
Evan, happy birthday. 3 for 3. Jimmy Cliff is correct. I don't think I've ever gotten 3 for 3.
I am the game, and I want to play.
I don't think I've ever gotten 3 for 3.
Trapped is a good one. Yeah, I'd love to actually. I got to listen to that first version of Trapped. That is a great live song.
I don't think I've actually ever heard the Jimmy Cliff version.
Neither have I.
But that's very good. I am impressed. Very good. Now I gotta step it up because I got to get 3 for 3 now.
All right, we'll get a new covers game next weekend.
Yes.
Speaking of next weekend, Groo, we're going to the last of the Action Heroes podcast network for episode 2 of Van Damme It. Groo and I will be looking at the Van Damme Breakthrough Classic, 1988's Bloodsport. Groo, thoughts on episode 2?
I can't wait.
Van Damme It, Bloodsport.
I just rewatched the original Bloodsport.
I think it's on HBO Max.
Yes, and I can't wait to do our next podcast for Last of the Great Action Heroes. I'm really enjoying revisiting these movies, and yeah, I mean it's gonna be a lot of fun. Yeah, next Saturday we're going to be doing Van Damme It, Bloodsport. And by the way, for whatever reason on my like YouTube feed or whatever, past all like the Asian porn and stuff, that usually comes up. There was. It seemed like a trailer for something called Bloodsport Redux.
Ooh!
I want you to look it up after we're done here on YouTube, and it seriously looks like a sequel to Bloodsport with Van Damme today. But I can't find any record of it anywhere. So I feel like it might be a fan thing, but it doesn't look like a fan thing.
Why do I feel like it might have went down and Van Damme did like a 1 minute maybe in the film and then got out and probably got paid for like an appearance fee to pump up the film?
I don't know. Well, you know what? You know what we'll do after we get off the air here? I'll share my screen with you and we'll watch it together. It's only like a minute.
All right.
So we'll do that.
All right.
Yeah, can't wait for next Saturday, Bloodsport, Van Damme It. And then I think our shows we're taking Nothing Worthwhile on the road again.
Well, we'll be back. Yes. Our tickets are bought. We'll be in New York for our annual. Well, it wasn't annual, but we'll be back in New York mid-November for our New York reunion. And matter of fact, just got a text message from Mitch Hasselbein. So definitely looking forward to the Hasselbeins and. Getting back to our hometown and the charity events.
And we're going to take advantage of it by, we're going to do at least two Nothing Worthwhile shows just to take advantage of the fact that we'll be in the same room. So that,
hopefully we'll also get a chance. David Rodolitz has been texting me nonstop.
Oh, Roddy.
He's going to probably come and look to pick us up, or we'll do something with him one afternoon or something like that.
And we know he can afford it, so he can pay for dinner. Fantastic! Can't wait to see you, Rodolitz. Can't wait to see you.
Yeah, you're rat. You're rat think bastard. So, all right, Groo, take us out.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Wow, it's been a long one, but look, it's David Lee Roth, Diamond Dave himself. But it's always a pleasure doing this. And it was great to talk about Van Halen and David Lee Roth with my best friend Evan Moody, and we cannot wait, as I said, till next week when we're going to be going back to Van Damme It, followed by our trip to New York and all the surprises in store for you, our loyal fan base. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to have a great weekend. I want you to have a happy and safe Halloween. And until next time, 1, 2, 3. Rap 'em.
Rap 'em. Whack, whack. Moby worm.